After my wife betrayed me and helped corrupt executives ruin lives, I exposed their empire, survived death threats, and watched justice finally catch them. Now I'm free, she's gone, and I'm starting over beneath Texas skies.
I still remember the exact moment I felt something crack in my chest. It was late October and I'd only been back in Seattle for maybe 6 hours. Just enough time to wash away the sweat from the long flight, grab a quick bite of Chinese takeout and notice the tension radiating from the corners of my house. My name is Sean Davis, by the way, former Marine, now working private security. I say private security, but what that really means is I poke around at suspicious corporate deals, perform risk assessments for fancy offices, and occasionally babysit some dignitary who insists on having a bodyguard. But that mid-October night wasn't about me working. It was about me coming home 2 days early from a protective detail in Thailand. I'd wanted to surprise my wife, Holly, with my sudden presence, walk in the door, fling my duffel to the side, maybe have a glass of wine together, celebrate my being stateside. Basic, normal married couple stuff. Except the house was cold, strangely quiet, and as soon as I stepped in, I spotted a half-packed suitcase by the bedroom door. Holly's. On top of it lay a bright red cocktail dress and black stiletto heels. Not weird in itself. My wife is a corporate events manager for a big hospitality chain. After all, she deals with fancy banquets, high rollers, and huge conferences. But I'd never seen that exact dress before. It was showy in a way that made my stomach flip. Maybe if I'd been less jet-lagged, I might have brushed it off. But something about the hush in our house, some intangible vibe, made me uneasy. I'd looked at my phone. Plenty of bars of signal, no missed calls from her. So I just took a shower, ate noodles over the sink, and then decided to see where she was. The laptop was on the kitchen counter, still logged in, and I'm not proud of it. But I clicked on her email. Maybe that was the moment everything started to change. She typed a short message to someone. "Don't worry, Sean won't be home until Wednesday. We've got 2 full days." That was the entire email. It was time-stamped about 40 minutes earlier. Another email chain mentioned something about a big corporate gala tonight, with references to her boss, Everett Glenn, and some VIP sponsor. And that was all I needed to suspect I should go see for myself. Now, I'm not the kind of man who leaps to conclusions without cause, but the combination of that ominous, "We've got 2 full days," plus the hush in our home, plus the fact she wasn't even picking up her cell told me in my gut I had to see for myself. So that's how I ended up in a borrowed suit, standing at the edges of a corporate gala at the downtown Marriott. The entire ballroom was a swirl of black ties, glittering gowns, and that distinctive hum of expensive liquor fueling half-baked business talk. I recognized a few faces from random events I had accompanied Holly to in the past. Generally, the crowd was an odd blend of hospitality executives, prospective investors, and local bigwigs. I didn't announce myself. That's the thing about being a security consultant. Trained observation becomes second nature. I slipped into the back, snagged a flute of champagne from a passing waiter, and made it a point to linger near a potted plant. The overhead chandeliers gave the entire place a golden glow, which only made Holly stand out more in this bright emerald sheath dress. Not the same red one I'd found on her suitcase, so clearly she'd changed her mind. She looked radiant, I won't lie, yet the second I spotted her, I knew something was off. Her body language was looser than usual. She seemed to float from person to person, all sweet smiles and flirtatious laughs, and clinging to her elbow like he had every right to do so was her boss, Everett Glenn. I'd met him once or twice before. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that well-groomed hair that's just starting to gray at the temples. The exact kind of big-shot corporate figure I'd never trust. As I watched them navigate the crowd, I felt a stab of unease. She was leaning in to close her hand, occasionally resting on his chest, an easy laugh escaping her lips. This wasn't the mild professional courtesy I'd expect. Maybe I was overreacting, but the entire thing smelled suspicious. When I noticed that certain other men in dark suits gave them appraising looks, almost conspiratorial smiles, my stomach sank further. I decided not to approach right away. Instead, I circled the room, half listening to random chatter. That's how I overheard Vanessa's comment. Vanessa is a coworker of Holly's. I recognized her vaguely from the last holiday event. She was half sloshed on champagne, whispering to another woman. Everett always arranges the best after parties for big clients. He's got Holly handling half of them, if you know what I mean. The other woman giggled, replying, she's definitely the boss's favorite. They both paused, noticing me drifting by, and clammed up. I offered them a polite nod, the kind that says ignore me. I'm just a random bystander. But inside, a nerve flared. I thought, what the hell is going on? This event, as I glean from the signage near the entrance, was some big hospitality chain gala. Holly had apparently planned it. Fine, that's normal for her job. But the vibe I was getting: laughter, innuendo-laced jokes, subtle winks hinted that this night wasn't just about hosting a standard corporate crowd. It was more like an exclusive handshake club where deals and pleasures might be exchanged behind closed doors. I sipped the stale champagne and bided my time, drifting from group to group. Eventually, I saw Holly step away from Everett, who was now schmoozing with a cluster of older men near the stage. She moved across the dance floor, chatting with folks who approached her. She didn't see me yet. Part of me wanted to walk straight up, wrap an arm around her waist, and grin. Guess who came home early? But a larger part of me hesitated, suspecting that if she saw me, it had spooked her. Maybe she'd spin some story. Maybe I'd never learn the truth of what was happening here. So I remained on the sidelines. After about half an hour, I ventured to the bar. I just set my empty champagne flute down, planning to switch to water when a hand touched my shoulder. Hey, soldier boy, when do you get in? A voice teased. I turned to find a woman I recognized from a previous function. Her name was Carmen, a PR manager for the same chain. She gave me a playful grin, but there was tension in her eyes. Not that long ago, I replied, forcing a casual tone. Carmen leaned in, speaking softly. Surprised to see you here. Holly told folks you were out of the country. Yeah, well, I finished my assignment early. I said, wanted to surprise her. Her gaze flicked across the ballroom to where Holly and Everett stood, now talking to a sponsor. I see. Then she hesitated, lowering her voice. You know this crowd, Sean? Everything is politics. I braced right. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but decided against it anyway. I'm sure Holly will be happy you came. Good luck. She patted my shoulder again and disappeared into the throng. What stuck out to me was the subtle warning in her tone. Good luck, as if I'd need it. The evening wore on in a swirl of polished conversation and clinking glasses. Some music began playing for the well-dressed folks who wanted to dance, and the overhead lights dimmed into a moody, golden hush. I settled myself near the large windows, looking out over downtown Seattle. That's when I spotted Holly actually noticing me across the room. Our eyes locked for a second. Her expression flickered, shock, then a hint of anxiety. She excused herself from the small group she was in and made her way to me, a tight smile plastered on her face. Oh my God, Sean. She tried to sound upbeat. You're back. I forced a grin, stepping forward to lightly kiss her cheek. Surprise, I said with no small amount of dryness in my voice. She shot a quick glance around, obviously making sure no one overheard. I didn't expect you until Wednesday. Why didn't you text? I wanted to see the look on your face. I joked, though my tone was clipped. But you weren't home. She waved a hand. Yes, the gala, she said breathlessly. I was coordinating everything. You should have told me. I'd have put you on the guest list. I took in the details. Her hair was meticulously styled, makeup flawless, her emerald dress hugging every curve. She looked stunning, I'll admit it, but there was a tautness around her eyes that let me know she was uneasy. I'm not much for big corporate events. Thought I'd just pop in. She swallowed. Well, it's pretty big. Let me introduce you to a few people. She reached for my arm like she wanted to lead me away from eavesdroppers. But then Everett appeared behind her, placing a hand on her lower back. Holly, he said, his voice smooth as silk. He turned to me, polite interest on his face. Don't think we've met. I'm Everett Glenn. I forced a neutral expression. Sean Davis, I said, returning his handshake. Sean's my husband. Holly clarified a bit too quickly, as if she didn't want him getting the wrong idea. He's in private security. Everett's eyes had that calculating gleam. I see. Well, thank you for letting us steal your wife so often. She's an integral part of our expansions. I fought the urge to scowl. The way he said expansions felt loaded with meaning. Sure, I replied neutrally. Holly nudged Everett. I just need a minute with Sean. Okay, I'll be right back. Of course. Everett nodded graciously, but his gaze lingered on me with something like curiosity, maybe suspicion. Then he moved away to intercept another sponsor. Holly looped her arm through mine and guided me toward the side hallway near the restrooms. Once there, she exhaled, pressing her lips into a tense smile. Sean, I can't believe you're home already. Why didn't you call me? I shrugged. I wanted it to be a surprise. I repeated quietly, scanning her eyes. Why? Everything all right? She laughed too brightly. Yes, of course. Just busy. This event's a huge deal for my career, you know. I studied her face. She avoided my gaze, glancing over my shoulder at the swirl of suits passing by. I do know, I said softly. Holly, what's going on? She parted her lips to respond, but just then Vanessa, her coworker, came bustling up, looking frantic. Holly, Everett needs you on stage in 5 minutes. Something about that group from Tokyo wanting a personal introduction. Holly used that as her escape. She flashed me an apologetic glance. Sorry, Sean. I have to do some damage control. Can we talk at home? Sure, I said, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. I'll see you later. She nodded, gave my arm a squeeze, and hurried off with Vanessa. I wanted to stay longer, see if I could gather more tidbits, but I also recognized that if I lurked around, I might tip them off. The last thing I wanted was to spook Holly or Everett, so I made a discreet exit, slipping out of the hotel's side entrance and blending into the chilly Seattle evening. I flagged a rideshare back to my house, my mind swirling. Once inside, I found myself pacing. The half-packed suitcase in our bedroom was still there, minus the red cocktail dress. Maybe she changed her mind on the color scheme, or maybe that red dress was for some private after-party. I rummaged the closet. She had a shocking number of new outfits, some with tags still attached from pricey boutiques. Scoffing quietly, I realized I had no idea how much money she'd been spending. I walked to the kitchen, flicked on the overhead light, and noticed a manila folder on the counter with the event schedule. Typical, except one note was scrawled in the margin. Meet sponsor in Suite 1702, after the main dinner, Suite 1702 at the Marriott. Presumably the same Marriott where this gala was taking place. My gut twisted. Sponsor. Could that be the Tokyo group or some other big fish? I decided right then I needed more direct evidence. It wasn't enough to suspect or rely on vague hints from people like Vanessa or Carmen. My job taught me the importance of proof. If I wanted to salvage my life from this fiasco, or if I wanted to blow it up properly, I needed absolute clarity. So I did something a bit shady. I used my phone to check her phone's backup logs. We were on a shared cellular account, which gave me partial access to call records, though not text contents. I saw a pattern of phone calls to one private number multiple times a day, often late at night. I cross-referenced the timeline with the day I left for Thailand. The frequency had doubled after I boarded the plane. I tried to glean more. The best I could see was that the calls were being routed through a virtual system. Maybe a burner phone or a separate line. Another red flag. It had been a long day and I was exhausted, so I told myself I'd talk to her in the morning. But some stubborn instinct told me to keep snooping. So I moved to the living room couch, turned on a small lamp, and opened my laptop. I typed in Holly's common password. I tried our birthday. No luck. Our anniversary. No. A few other combos. Finally, I recalled the name of her childhood cat. Bingo. I was in. Emails popped up. The subject lines alone gave me chills. Meeting with E. Incentive for the sponsor. Everett's request. I clicked one randomly. It read, Holly, I need you to arrange a private dinner for Mr. Delgado next Thursday. Something intimate. You know how to handle him. Let's push for that contract finalization. The usual arrangement. The usual arrangement. I skimmed further down. Hey, Everett, I can do that. Just let me know the date time. Sean's traveling again next week. so no problem on my end. I leaned back, stomach roiling. They were scheduling my absences like convenient windows for their arrangements. I flipped to another email thread. Holly, Mr. Kim arrives in 2 weeks. If we land this contract, it's worth tens of millions. I trust you'll entertain him, as we discussed. This is big for your future. Her reply. Got it, Everett. Let's make sure Sean's not around that week. I'll handle the rest. God, that wink emoticon at the end made me see red. My wife, my Holly, was effectively letting her boss prostitute her for deals. Or maybe she was the one volunteering. Or maybe it's mutual. I don't know how long I sat there breathing heavily. I wasn't crying or raging outwardly, but something in me had gone terrifyingly calm. That old Marine switch. Maybe the part of me that can detach from chaos and methodically chart a plan. Finally, the front door opened. I flicked the laptop shut and set it aside. She came in, hair a bit messy, the same emerald dress slightly rumpled around the thighs. Oh, you're still up? She said, voice careful. Everything okay? I smiled thinly, just wanted to say good night. She let out a sigh, stepping closer, glancing at me through her lashes. Look, sorry if I was short with you earlier. The event is intense and I had no idea you'd be there. I was flustered. I nodded. It's fine. I'm beat though. Going to crash? She hesitated, like she expected me to push for more explanation. When I didn't, she seemed oddly relieved. She kissed my cheek, her lipstick leaving a faint smear. I'll join you in a minute, she murmured. I walked to the bedroom, pulse pounding. I had no intention of sleeping next to her tonight. Not after what I discovered, but I played along, pulling off my jacket, unfastened my shirt. She entered soon after, tossing her dress on a chair, standing in her slip. Usually that was enough to stir me. Tonight I felt nothing but a cold sense of betrayal. She slipped under the covers, forced a playful grin. You sure you're not up for celebrating your homecoming? I lay beside her, gazing at the ceiling. Sorry, Hall. Jet lag. She seemed disappointed, but didn't push. A minute or two later, she rolled onto her side. I listened as her breathing slowed, or at least she pretended to drift off. Meanwhile, I stared into the darkness, feeling that crack in my chest widen. I remember thinking, this isn't just some fling. This is a system. She's part of a machine that trades her body for corporate gains. And then I wondered how much of Sean Davis is left in this marriage. Sleep wouldn't come easily. I just lay there, going over every detail from the night, every snippet of conversation, every suspicious line of text. My jaw was clenched so tight it hurt, but I told myself, be patient, don't blow up now. Gather everything, then strike. Eventually I did drift into a fitful doze. I'd wake every hour or two, hearing her shift in the sheets once or twice. I thought I heard her muffled sob, but I convinced myself I was imagining it. Morning would bring answers, or at least the next step. When the alarm beeped at 7 a.m., I was already awake, perched on the edge of the bed, rolling a kink out of my neck. Holly grumbled, flopping onto her back. She picked up at me, rubbed her eyes. What are you doing? She mumbled. It's early and you're jet-lagged. Can't sleep? I said tersely. I'll go make coffee. She yawned. Give me 10 minutes to shower, then I'll join you in the kitchen. I brewed coffee, fussed with the mugs more than necessary, my mind heavy with last night's revelations. What was the best move? Confront her directly. Demand to know how long this had been happening, or keep quiet, gather more evidence and then present her with no escape route. My Marine training insisted on the second option. You don't rush the target. You wait for the perfect shot. She walked in, hair damp, wearing a sleek blouse and skirt. I have a meeting with Everett about 9, she said, almost apologetic. We're finalizing the notes from last night's gala. I handed her a mug. So, about last night, you never said much about the event. She blew on her coffee. Oh, it was the usual. She lied easily, whining and dining sponsors, rubbing elbows with the board. Typical stuff. I raised an eyebrow. You sure there isn't more to it? The after parties, maybe. She blinked, a moment of panic in her eyes, but quickly smoothed her expression. Well, yeah, some folks do after parties, but that's not my department. I just handle the official function. She sipped her coffee. Anyway, how was your flight? I stared at her for a moment. the coffee's steam curling between us. Long, I said quietly, but I'm glad to be back. Even if what I'm back to is a pile of lies. She shot me a cautious smile. We'll have dinner together tonight, okay? A real catch-up, I promise. Things at work are intense right now. Once we close a few more deals, maybe I can scale back. The forced brightness in her tone was almost comedic. She was obviously hoping I'd buy that half-truth. Sure, I said neutrally. I watched her gather her keys, phone, and purse. She gave me a quick peck on the lips, something she'd done 1,000 times. But this time I fought the urge to recoil. My mind flashed with images of her letting some sponsor's hands roam her body to finalize a deal. See you later, she said, glancing at me with an attempt at normalcy. We'll talk, okay? Yep, I muttered, forcing a thin smile. Have a good day, she laughed. I breathed out slowly. That was the moment I decided. No half measures. I rummaged in a small locked box I kept in my desk. Inside was a sleek flash drive that contained the basic software for covert phone monitoring. I'd used it in previous security gigs, always with the client's explicit permission. This time, I wasn't exactly following the usual protocols. My plan was to sync it with her phone that evening when she got back. If I had total access to her communications, I could see exactly how these deals were orchestrated. In many states, that's a legal gray area, maybe even illegal. But I needed the truth. While pacing the living room, I realized I might also need a backup plan if I confronted Everett alone. Would that help? Probably not. He'd likely threaten to bury me legally. But if I got enough dirt to blow up his operation, plus names of clients who'd partaken, he might fold. Maybe I could ensure Holly's job was toast. But also her entire ring of conspirators. A wave of heartbreak threatened to swamp me. This was my wife. Damn it. The woman I thought was simply ambitious. Sure, she always had big dreams. She talked about climbing the corporate ladder, making a name for herself. But I never, ever imagined her exchanging sexual favors for promotions or letting her boss loan her to clients. That's not an affair. That's something else altogether. I ended up calling an old friend, Alan, who'd gone from the Marines into law school. He was in private practice now. I kept my voice guarded, not wanting to reveal too much over the phone. Just gave him a broad stroke scenario. Look, buddy, I think my wife's cheating on me, but it's tangled up with illegal corporate stuff. He paused. Jesus, Sean, that's heavy. You have proof? Some emails, phone logs, the works. Possibly more going on behind the scenes might involve our boss. Alan sighed. Are you planning to file for divorce? I rubbed my eyes. I don't know yet. I can't see a path forward that doesn't end that way. She's in too deep. Then gather everything you can. Document, 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 he said. We both know how courts can get if you want the upper hand in a divorce, especially in Washington state, where they typically split assets 50-50. You need undeniable evidence of wrongdoing. If you can prove adultery or serious misconduct, you have a chance of walking away with more, possibly even spousal support in reverse. If you can show she cost you or the marriage financial harm. I grimaced. It's not about the money. I want her to face consequences for this betrayal. Alan's voice was sympathetic. I get it. But trust me, you'll want a legal advantage when this hits the fan. Let me know what you find, and we'll talk next steps. That phone call made me feel marginally calmer, like I had a blueprint. By the time I hung up, it was nearing midday. I realized I needed a break from the house, from the oppressive sense of discovered betrayal. I grabbed my jacket and stepped out, letting the crisp fall air slap me awake. I found myself wandering over to a small cafe a few blocks away. This was a place Holly and I used to frequent back when we were younger, before her career soared and we got caught up in the hustle. The barrister recognized me. Long time no see, man, he said cheerily. Yeah, I answered. Life got busy. I ordered a simple black coffee and sat at a corner table. The place was half empty, soft acoustic music playing overhead as I sipped. I thought about how drastically things had changed since we'd married 8 years ago. We'd had a small ceremony in Holly's parents' backyard. She was so radiant, so sweet and, yes, ambitious in a healthy sense. She wanted to start at the ground level in event management and work our way up. I was so proud of her drive. Where had that woman gone? I replayed the hints, the new clothes, the pricey dinners. Her phone always locked the hush in the house. Her refusal to let me meet certain colleagues. Because you'd be bored, Sean. Possibly. I'd been oblivious for months. Maybe even longer. I spent about half an hour there, sipping coffee, scrolling through my phone. I saw Holly's social media feed was basically curated to show her as a hardworking corporate professional. Photos of conferences, fancy table settings, group shots with colleagues. But if you looked closely, Everett was in nearly every photo, smirking off to the side. At one point, I scrolled back to an older post from 6 months ago. It was her celebrating a promotion to senior events coordinator. Everett was in the pic, his arm casually around her waist. The caption read, "Couldn't have done it without my amazing mentor." My chest tightened, recalling that I'd been overseas for a job around that exact time. Could that have been the real start of everything? Or was it earlier? The timeline was muddy. Eventually, I left the cafe, drifting around the block. The leaves had turned a brilliant orange, a cool breeze pushing them along the sidewalk. I watched a couple of kids playing with a skateboard, laughing in that carefree way for a split second. I felt a pang. We'd once talked about having kids. That dream seemed so far away now. When I got back to the house, I rummaged in my home office, retrieving a small, motion-sensitive camera. I positioned it discreetly in the living room aimed at the hallway. If Holly brought anyone here, or if she thought I was away, I wanted the footage. I tested it, watching the feed on my phone. Good enough. Then I prepared an excuse to be absent. That evening, if she thought I was out, maybe she'd feel free to have certain phone calls or even meet someone. So I texted her, "Got a meeting with an old friend from the Corps tonight. Might be late. You do your thing," she replied. "Okay, babe, no problem. I might have to work late to see you whenever." The casualness pissed me off. "Okay, babe," like everything was peaky. Rather than blow up her phone with accusations, I left it at that. As the afternoon wore on, I busied myself rummaging through old photos looking for any sign I'd missed. None. Holly had once been sweet, devoted. Now all I could see in my head was her trailing after Everett in that emerald dress, letting him drape his arm around her. Around 6:30 p.m. she texted she'd be grabbing a quick dinner at the office with Everett and a potential sponsor. She said not to wait up. Perfect. I fired off a quick message to Alan letting him know I was implementing Plan Recon. He joked that I sounded like I was back in the Marines. I left the house around 7:00, but circled back in about 15 minutes, parking a block away. Then I walked quietly through the side yard to slip in the back door, ensuring I wasn't spotted from the street. Once inside, I settled into a dark corner, phone on silent, camera feed open. I sat there for hours, feeling ridiculous but determined. 9 p.m. rolled around, then 10. No sign of her. I occasionally flicked through the motion cans. Live feed. Nothing. I started to doze around 10:30. At 11, I jolted awake to the faint sound of footsteps on the porch. The front door unlocked. I crouched behind the couch. She entered alone, footsteps clicking across the hardwood. She set her purse down, then made a phone call. I listened from my hidden vantage point. Her voice was hushed, but I caught snippets. "Yes, Mr. Delgado confirmed." "No," I told Everett, "the suite's booked for next Tuesday." "Don't worry, Sean's got a new job next week." I clenched my fists. She was planning my absence again, evidently so she could fulfill some new service. Then, mercifully, she ended the call, exhaled and walked to the bedroom. I waited until I heard the shower running. Quietly, I crept out the back door again and circled around to my car, trembling with anger. So it was real concrete. My wife was basically scheduling sexual liaisons with corporate sponsors to help Everett land deals, and I was the convenient husband she tried to keep out of the way. I might have driven around aimlessly for an hour that night just to cool down. My mind reeled with next steps. I had an entire night to reflect on how I would gather conclusive evidence, and eventually how I would watch them burn. I spent the remainder of that night dozing in my car, half lucid. By sunrise, I felt grimy and frustrated, but more certain than ever that I couldn't just let this blow over. My emotions ranged from heartbreak to cold fury, but mostly I just felt purposeful. I guess that's a side effect of my Marine training. Give me a mission and I zero in blocking out distractions. As the sun crept up, I finally drove home, changed clothes, and pretended I'd simply come in late for meeting my buddy. Holly was in the kitchen, hair up in a messy bun, wearing yoga pants as she typed on her phone. She glanced up, forced a casual smile. "Morning," she said, a note of hesitation. I nodded, rummaging in the cupboard for cereal. "Morning." She parted her lips, maybe to ask if I'd slept okay, but then seemed to think better of it. I gotta head out soon. Another day of meetings. I kept my voice even, meeting with Everett. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "Yes, among others." She tapped the phone screen, then set it down. "I have to finalize the Tokyo group's itinerary for next week. Big money could be huge for us." I gave a non-committal grunt, pouring milk into my bowl. "Right. Good luck with that." She busied herself checking her reflection in the toaster, smoothing an invisible wrinkle in her top. It struck me how our marriage had become so strained that we barely talked about normal life stuff, groceries, weekend plans, our families. Instead, we tiptoed around each other, each with our secrets. Her secret was that she was basically pouring herself to powerful men for a corporate chain. My secret was that I knew Sean. She began, voice softer. "About dinner tonight. Do you still want to? I mean, we've been out of sync, but maybe we can, I don't know, reconnect." I felt a stab in my chest. "Sure, if you're up for it." She breathed out, relief flickering in her eyes. "Yes, absolutely. Let's do that. Just you and me. I'll even cook." I tried to muster a small smile. "That'd be nice." She checked the time, then hurriedly grabbed her purse. "I'll be home by 6-7 at the latest." I didn't bother with a goodbye kiss. She laughed, and once again I was alone with my thoughts after finishing my cereal. I opened up my laptop to do a more thorough search for her emails. She changed her password again, likely last night, because I could no longer log in with her cat's name. That only confirmed how paranoid she was getting. But I had the keylogger installed the previous night thanks to my moment in the house while she was showering, so I could at least check the logs once I physically accessed her device. The question was how to do that without her suspecting. In frustration, I ran my hand through my hair and walked into the bedroom, scanning for anything else incriminating. That's when I remembered she sometimes left a spare phone charger in the nightstand. Sure enough, I found a small black USB drive next to it. Curiously, I plugged it into my own laptop. It was locked with a simple passcode, but one I managed to guess based on her typical patterns. Inside was a folder labeled receipts. Most were normal clothing, groceries, etc., but there was a subfolder named Private. My heart pounded as I opened it. Bingo! It contained scanned PDFs of bank statements. Not our joint account, but an entirely different one I'd never heard of under her maiden name. Over the past 6 months, it showed multiple deposits labeled consulting fees from the corporate chain or from some affiliate. The amounts were large, thousands at a time, sometimes tens of thousands. No wonder she'd been dressing so lavishly. She'd stashed away quite a sum. If I had to guess, it was hush money or direct payments for these services. My fists clenched. The statement showed the balance was nearly $100K. I took out my phone and snapped photos of the screen as evidence. Now I had a partial money trail. It wasn't bulletproof proof of sex for contracts, but it was sure suspicious. Add that to the texts and emails referencing after parties. The puzzle was forming a horrifying picture. I spent the rest of the morning methodically searching the house. It might sound insane, but I was fueled by that sense of infiltration. I wanted to find every last detail because once I confronted her, or once I set the trap for Everett, I needed zero doubt. Nothing else major surfaced, but I did discover a small velvet pouch hidden behind a row of shoes in her closet. Inside was a diamond bracelet, clearly expensive. She'd never worn it around me. The price tag was still in the pouch. $8,900 from some upscale jeweler, a gift from Everett, or from a sponsor, I presumed. Another piece of the puzzle. Around noon, I decided to call Carmen, that PR manager who'd greeted me at the gala. I still had her number from a previous event. She answered in a crisp tone. "Carmen speaking." I introduced myself. "Hey, it's Sean Davis, Holly's husband. You got a minute?" She paused. "Sure, Sean. Everything okay?" "Not exactly." I said carefully. I just wanted to ask. At that gala, you hinted that I might not be welcome or might need luck. Is there something going on with Holly's department I should know about? Silence. Then she sighed. Look, I'm not comfortable discussing any specifics. I like Holly, but the vibe around here, let's just say Everett has a certain reputation. Reputation for what, exactly? I pressed. Carmen coughed awkwardly for awarding promotions in exchange for personal favors. He's never done anything to me, but I've heard stories. She hesitated. I also know Holly has become close to him. She's advanced very quickly. It's none of my business, Sean. But you're a nice guy. I hate seeing you in the dark. My heartbeat thudded. So you're confirming that he basically uses employees to sweeten deals for high-level clients. She made a choked sound. I didn't say that, but I guess you can connect the dots. Anyway, I gotta go. She hung up before I could ask more. I sat there, phone in hand, anger swirling in my gut. Carmen's cryptic confirmation aligned with what I'd already uncovered. I felt a mixture of betrayal, heartbreak, and a savage satisfaction that I was on the right track. The day crawled by. Around 5:30 p.m., Holly texted that she'd be home soon and asked what we wanted to do for dinner. I suggested we keep it simple, maybe a quick pasta, just the two of us. She agreed. I braced myself for an evening of forced normalcy. I'd confront her carefully, glean more. If I was too aggressive, she'd clam up. If I was too passive, I might never get her to slip up and reveal more details. I needed her to trust that I was clueless enough so she'd keep doing what she was doing, letting me gather more evidence. She arrived home a bit after 6, arms full of groceries. Hey, she called, stepping into the kitchen. I bought stuff for carbonara. I nodded, stepping aside to help her place the bags down. She gave me a quick smile, but I saw the tension in her posture. How was your day? She asked lightly, rummaging for the parmesan. I shrugged, playing it cool. Caught up on emails. Took a walk. Nothing special. She nodded, glancing at me. I'm sorry I've been so busy lately. It's just I'm under a lot of pressure from the higher-ups. I forced a gentle expression. Want to talk about it? She hesitated, then sighed. Well, there's this new sponsor, Delgado. He's basically ready to invest heavily in our chain, but we need to finalize certain terms. Everett's leaning on me to impress him. They're flying the guy in next week. I guess I'll have to show him around town. Wine and dine him. That kind of thing. I just want to make sure everything is perfect. Every word of that reeked of half-truth. I nodded sympathetically. I get it. Whole corporate life is tough. She flashed me a grateful smile, probably relieved I wasn't pressing. Then we set about making dinner together, the clink of pots and pans somehow comforting like old times. She poured 2 glasses of white wine as we cooked. The conversation stayed surface level, her complaining about incompetent coworkers, me feigning interest. I occasionally asked about Everett, and she'd give short, vague answers, describing him as very driven. Eventually, we sat down to eat, steam rising from the plates. She raised her wine glass. To you being home, she said softly. I touched my glass to hers. Cheers for a moment as we sipped. I almost believed we could revert to our old dynamic. She was funny, recounting a silly anecdote about how an intern once spilled coffee all over some sponsor's paperwork. She laughed. I chuckled politely. The tension in my shoulders loosened. If I didn't know the truth, I'd think we were just a normal couple. But then I caught the flicker of guilt in her eyes. She quickly averted her gaze. It reminded me that all of this was an elaborate facade. After dinner, we cleared the dishes. She wiped her hands on a towel, then came over, standing close. I missed you, she murmured. I swallowed, noticing the warmth of her body. I missed you, too. She leaned in, pressing a tentative kiss to my lips. A swirl of conflicting emotions hit me. God, how I'd once craved her. Now I was mostly disgusted, but I forced myself to respond, to keep the illusion alive. We ended up on the couch, her tucked under my arm. She asked about my Thailand assignment, so I spun a half. True story, I'd been protecting some wealthy executive who was paranoid about kidnapping. She listened, wide-eyed. Normally, I'd have appreciated her interest, but I saw the distance in her eyes. I could almost feel her calculating how my schedule might line up with her next meeting. "Hey," she said suddenly, "I've been thinking. Maybe next month we can do a weekend getaway. Just the two of us, head out to the coast or something." "Yeah, right, I thought maybe," I said, brushing her hair aside. "That sounds nice." She exhaled contentedly and let her head rest on my shoulder. That's how we sat for a bit, the TV playing in the background, some mindless sitcom. For a moment, I felt a pang of sorrow for how far we'd fallen. We used to be in love, real love. Now we were basically two actors playing out a scene. Eventually she stood, yawned dramatically. "I'm exhausted. Long day. I'm going to shower and get to bed." "Okay," I nodded, forcing a small smile. "I'll be in soon." She leaned down, kissed my forehead, then headed off. I waited until I heard the water running before I quietly retrieved my phone, checking the hidden camera feed in the living room. It was rolling, but obviously there wasn't much to see with just me there. I also tested the phone's new software. So far, so good. One text that popped up on her phone logs from EEG at 9:43 p.m. at 940. "Don't forget to confirm Delgado's hotel suite next week. We need you there." I swallowed. So even in the middle of this cozy dinner, Everett was texting her about hooking up with Delgado. My blood boiled. I stood flipping off the TV. If I stayed here any longer, I might do something rash. Instead, I stepped outside to the back porch. The night air cooled my heated face. The distant hum of traffic floated over and overhead. A few stars winked through Seattle's light pollution patience. I reminded myself, stay calm, gather everything. That was the plan. In the days that followed, I executed a subtle routine. I'd leave the house for hours, then circle back and hide, capturing any suspicious phone calls. I'd let her think I was oblivious, making polite conversation whenever we were both home. Meanwhile, I was rummaging through her digital footprints, amassing more damning evidence. One evening, I got especially lucky. She'd gone to bed early, leaving her phone charging on the kitchen counter. I quietly snatched it, plugged in the device that extracted her text log. Within minutes, I had a copy of all her messages for the last 2 months. Some were purely professional, but sprinkled throughout were references to private dinners, suite reservations, special entertainment, and cringeworthy emojis hinting at sexual favors. She rarely spelled it out explicitly. No direct mention of sex or sleeping with him, but reading between the lines, it was painfully clear. She confirmed times and places to meet these sponsors alone. She even joked with Everett about how Mr. Kim might want a second round. That message made me physically ill. I sat on the couch in darkness, reading the words Holly. "Mr. Kim's a bit older, but as long as it locks in that contract, I'll manage. Let me know if I need to book 2 nights. Everett's reply, "Yes, do. I'll reimburse you." I nearly threw the phone across the room. Instead, I forced myself to keep snapping screenshots because anger wouldn't serve me now. Proof would. Eventually, I put her phone back exactly where it was, making sure to delete any signs I had access to it. Then I retreated to the bedroom. She was softly snoring, oblivious to the turmoil swirling in me. A week slipped by with me playing the dutiful husband on the surface while meticulously archiving text logs, call recordings, and hidden camera clips. I overheard half a dozen phone calls referencing Delgado's upcoming visit. Holly was apparently going to pick him up at the airport, take him to dinner, then show him around. Everett would join for the formal dinner, but the after-party was just Holly and Delgado, presumably in a plush hotel suite. I told Alan, my lawyer friend, about all this. He was stunned. "Damn, Sean, that's insane," he said over the phone. "You're building one hell of a case, not just for adultery, but also for illegal corporate conduct." "Yeah," I said darkly. "Everett's basically pimping her out, but she's a willing participant as far as I can see." Alan paused. "If you blow this open, it'll get messy. Lawsuits, criminal investigations. Are you prepared for that fallout?" I exhaled. She deserves what's coming. Everett too. This is bigger than just cheating. It's systematic exploitation. I want them to face real consequences. "All right," Alan said. "Then keep at it. Let me know if you need me to draft anything, or if you want to file for divorce sooner." But if I were you, I'd wait until after Delgado's visit. They might slip up even more, especially if big money's on the line. You'll have an ironclad position for property division. Moral damages. Whatever Washington law can handle. I agreed. Delgado's upcoming trip was basically my chance to catch her in the act. If I confronted her beforehand, she might scramble or lie or try to bury evidence. Better to let them get comfortable. Let her think I was none the wiser. Then spring the trap. But each passing day it got harder to play the clueless spouse. We had dinners together, sometimes even watched a movie on the couch. She tried being affectionate, maybe out of guilt, or to keep me from suspecting. On the outside, we might have looked like a normal couple who'd just had some minor distance from my job, but inside I felt like I was living with a stranger. One particular scene stands out from that week. We were in the grocery store picking out produce. She was scanning avocados, testing ripeness, while I hovered by the tomatoes, my mind a million miles away. Suddenly, Holly turned, noticing my blank stare. "You okay?" she asked softly. I forced a smile. "Yeah, sorry, just spaced out." She gave a small laugh. "We've been so out of sync lately. Remember how we used to come here and argue about which brand of coffee is best?" I nodded, trying not to let my resentment show. "Yeah, simpler times," she exhaled. "Let's fix that. We can do a real date night soon. Maybe after Delgado's visit." My schedule should open up after Delgado's visit. "You mean after you sleep with him?" I managed not to say it aloud. Instead, I gave a non-committal hum. "Sure." A middle-aged woman nearby looked at us, probably seeing a handsome enough couple quietly chatting by the produce. If only she knew the undercurrent. Holly placed a few avocados in a bag, then put them in our cart. "Okay, we're good to go. Let's check out." As we walked to the register, she slipped her arm around my waist. I tried not to stiffen. The normalcy of it all was maddening. The day before Delgado's arrival, I eavesdropped on a phone call where Holly confirmed the hotel suite booking. She also told Everett. I convinced Sean to do some new assignment in Portland, so he'll be out of the house. That was news to me. She was basically scheduling me to be gone. Well, two could play that game. I decided I'd pretend to get called away, but I'd actually stay in Seattle stealth mode. I set everything up. I told Holly that my security firm had a last-minute job in Portland for a VIP who needed close protection, and I'd be gone from Tuesday through Thursday. She feigned mild disappointment, but said, "No problem, babe. I'll manage here. You do what you gotta do." I booked a cheap motel across town under a friend's name, just so I'd have a base of operations if I needed. The plan was to see her off to work Tuesday morning, pretend to drive away for hours, then circle back and track her movements. Delgado's flight was scheduled for that afternoon. I had a friend at TSA who could confirm his arrival time. I felt like a detective. The morning came and I executed the ruse. We had breakfast together. She kissed me goodbye, wishing me a safe trip. I loaded a duffel into my trunk, drove out of the neighborhood. Then I parked in a vacant lot, changed into more casual clothes, and hopped into a rideshare to the airport. My goal: watch them from a distance at the arrivals gate for international flights. I lingered near a coffee kiosk. Delgado eventually strolled out short, balding, wearing an expensive suit. Holly was there to greet him, looking polished in a sleek black skirt suit. She beamed, gave him a cheek kiss and that European style. Then they retrieved his luggage and headed toward the parking structure together. She led him to her car. They were all smiles, chattering about Seattle's weather. I recorded it all on my phone from a discreet vantage. Then I hopped into a different rideshare, trailing them from a distance. They drove to a high-end restaurant downtown. Another of Holly's co-organizers joined them, presumably for the official business lunch. I sat in a coffee shop across the street waiting. After about 2 hours, Holly and Delgado stepped out alone, parted ways with a coworker. They got back in her car. My heart hammered. I could guess their next destination, the hotel suite. Sure enough, they arrived at an upscale hotel on the waterfront. I watched Holly hand the keys to a valet. Delgado carried a small briefcase. They disappeared inside. I forced myself to wait. Could be purely a normal client checking, but from what I'd read in the texts, I suspected they had extracurricular activities planned. My phone buzzed. Alan was checking on me. I typed, "They're in the hotel." I'll gather more proof. Creeping into that hotel might be tricky, but I had a friend working security there. Another contact from my Marine days. Let's call him Rick. I texted Rick, basically said, I suspect my wife's in a private suite with a sponsor. Need to confirm a suspicion, he replied. You're insane, Sean, but sure, I'll help. I can check cameras. I joined Rick in a back corridor near the staff rooms, wearing a baseball cap, keeping my head down. He guided me to a small security office where we could see the lobby cams, and there it was, a feed of Holly and Delgado stepping into the elevator. Rick tapped a few keys, switching to the elevator feed. They were alone. She was smiling, flipping her hair. He placed a hand on the small of her back. My gut twisted. The elevator stopped at the 12th floor. They stepped out, drifting out of camera range, presumably to a suite. Sorry, man, Rick murmured sympathetically. That's all we got. I stared at the screen, rage and heartbreak mixing. Thanks, buddy. It's enough. He nodded. If you want, I can check hallway cams. See which suite they enter. I clenched my jaw. Yeah, do it. He tapped around, found the 12th floor corridor cam. Sure enough, they emerged from the elevator walk down to suite 1209. Rick enhanced the shot and we saw Delgado slide a key card in the door. They entered. I forced an exhale. This is it. I texted Alan a short update. Suite 1209. They're in now, he responded. Get proof if you can, but be careful. No illegal break-ins. I stood by Rick in that cramped security office watching the clock tick. Minutes passed, then half an hour, then a full hour. They didn't leave. That combined with everything else was pretty damn conclusive. Eventually, I shook Rick's hand quietly, thanking him, and left the hotel. My head swam with the knowledge that my wife was upstairs, likely sleeping with Delgado to finalize some contract. I wanted to storm the suite, but that'd be impulsive. Instead, I needed to think bigger because if I wanted Everett, Holly, and all their scummy deals to go down, I had to be strategic. Walking out into the crisp Seattle air, I felt a sort of numb clarity. I was going to see this through. This was only the beginning of their downfall, and I intended to be the who lit the fuse. That evening, I camped out in that cheap motel across town, the one I'd rented under my buddy's name. I felt restless, pacing the worn carpet, flipping channels on a battered TV. Scenes of Delgado and Holly in that suite kept looping in my mind. Eventually, around 9 p.m., I checked the hallway camera feed. Rick had texted me a snippet. Holly left the suite alone, hair a bit disheveled, adjusting her blouse. Delgado was nowhere in sight. She took the elevator down, walked across the lobby, and stepped out to the valet station. Then the clip ended. I pictured her driving home, maybe rehearsing some story about how the business dinner ran late. Meanwhile, I pretended I was still in Portland. Let her think I'd never suspect a thing. Sometime after midnight, I dozed off. My dreams were feverish. I saw images of Holly laughing at me with Everett, or dancing with random men in expensive suits swirling in slow motion, neon lights flickering. I woke up sweaty, heart pounding. The next morning, I grabbed a coffee from the motel. Sad continental breakfast. Then I called Alan, voice low. We have enough to bury them, I said, describing the sweet footage. My logs, the phone messages. I want to take this nuclear. He paused. What exactly is your goal? Immediate confrontation. Lawsuit. Going to the press. I considered. I want them both to lose everything. Their reputations, their deals, their sense of control. This is bigger than a simple affair. It's a corporate sex ring, effectively, and Holly's an accomplice. Alan let out a slow breath. All right, if we're going that route, we'd want to approach the chain's board or top execs. Show them the evidence. They won't want to be implicated. They might cut Everett loose, blow the whistle themselves. Your wife will be collateral damage. Then there's the public angle. If you share it with certain journalists, it becomes a scandal. A flicker of pity for Holly tried to emerge. I smothered it. She'd chosen this path. She'd lied, used me, destroyed the trust she needed to face the consequences. Yes, I said firmly. I want a controlled release enough to force them into total meltdown. Alan hesitated. You realize that means your marriage is done, right? My voice turned grim. It's already done. We plan to gather everything in a neat package. Meanwhile, I returned home that afternoon, feigning that I'd just driven back from Portland. Holly was in the kitchen making coffee. She brightened when she saw me, but I noticed her cheeks flush. Guilt, maybe. How was Portland? She asked, handing me a mug. I forced an easy grin. Tiring, but productive. We wrapped up earlier than expected. She nodded, sipping her own cup. Great. Delgado's in town, by the way. I might have to be out a lot this week, showing him around. Big sponsor. We did an initial dinner last night. I almost choked on my coffee, but kept it together. How'd it go? She shrugged. Fine. Business talk mostly. Everett was there, too. I nodded slowly, mentally noting that she was lying about Everett's presence. Glad it went well. She shifted awkwardly, tapping her nails on the countertop. Listen, I know we haven't had much time together, but after this sponsor stuff is done, I swear I'll slow down. I studied her, wondering if she actually believed that or if it was more lines. Sure, I said, letting my gaze linger. She looked away. Over the next few days, Delgado's schedule continued. I discreetly followed them once or twice. In broad daylight, I saw them having lunch at a fancy place by the pier. She'd feed him tidbits about the city, show him brochures for expansions. By night, they presumably had private meetings at whatever suite Everett had arranged. I collected more evidence. At one point, I overheard her telling Delgado on the phone, "Yes, I'll wear the black dress you liked. And don't worry about Sean. He's out on assignment again." That single line encapsulated everything. She was leading a double life, ensuring I was out of the picture so she could keep trading herself for corporate gain. A sick part of me wanted to barge into the suite and catch them in the act with a camera, but legally, that'd be dicey. Instead, I decided to replicate the final night scenario. Delgado was leaving after the weekend, so on Friday, they were set to have a farewell dinner. I knew from Holly's phone logs that it would end in a celebration. Perfect. I'd get one final piece of proof enough to cement the entire operation that Friday. I told Holly I was working an overnight security detail. She gave me a kiss and hurried out to pick Delgado up. As soon as she was gone, I changed clothes, grabbed my phone, and sped over to the same hotel. Rick was on shift. He let me watch discreetly from the security office again. Sure enough, Holly and Delgado arrived around 9 p.m. laughing in the elevator, leaning into each other. "Show me which suite they go to," I murmured. We waited. They got off at the 15th floor. This time, suite 1506. Again they vanished inside. My hands shook with adrenaline. "I need audio or something," I muttered. Rick shook his head, glancing around the dingy security office. "We don't have audio in rooms. That'd be illegal. The best you can do is see them enter." I nodded, swallowing the bitter taste in my mouth. "That's enough. I just want a timestamped record." He tapped the keyboard, saving a snippet of the feed. I had them on video entering suite 1506 at 9:22 p.m. That was all I needed. Another nail in the coffin. Around midnight, they emerged, both smiling. Delgado's hand was around her waist and she was giggling. He escorted her to the elevator, parted ways in the lobby, and presumably she went home. My phone buzzed as I recorded the screen. Then I quietly left, my heart thrumming with satisfaction and revulsion. The next day was Saturday. Holly seemed extra cheerful, telling me Delgado was very pleased with their final meeting and that the contract looked promising. I felt like I was observing a twisted stage play. She was proud of herself, thinking she pulled off a major business win that afternoon. As we sat in the living room, I decided to probe gently, see if she'd brag about her success in more direct terms. She was flipping through channels on TV when I asked, "So how's Delgado? Was he impressed with your hospitality?" Her head snapped around, eyes narrowing slightly. "What do you mean?" she asked, a forced laugh. I shrugged, feigning ignorance. "Just heard he's a tough negotiator." She relaxed a fraction. "Oh well, yeah, but he's quite satisfied. I think we're sealing the deal next week." She flashed me a bright smile. "I might even get a bonus for making this happen." My stomach twisted. "A bonus?" She nodded eagerly. "Yes, a big one." From whatever it hinted, I know all this time apart has been tough, Sean, but it's going to pay off. Just imagine the places we can go. The lifestyle we can have once I climb higher." I stared at her, marveling at the layers of deception. She truly believed I was clueless. Or perhaps she just refused to see how my eyes glinted with anger. "Yeah," I said softly. "Can't wait." She grinned, returning her attention to the TV. I suppressed the urge to smash the remote. "Patience," I reminded myself. "We're nearly there." By Monday, Delgado was gone, presumably heading back to wherever he came from, with a big grin on his face. Holly had a victory glow about her. She even suggested we go out to celebrate, but I claimed I was swamped with my own security gigs. Quietly behind the scenes, I assembled the data over the course of the last 2 weeks. I had text logs referencing sexual favors from multiple sponsors, emails about arranging private dinners while I was away, bank statements showing large consulting fees and Holly's hitting account, hotel security footage of her and Delgado entering suites at suspicious times, additional phone call recordings where Everett gave instructions to please certain clients physically. It was a comprehensive dossier. I forwarded a copy to Alan for safekeeping. We planned the next step, delivering the evidence to key board members of the hospitality chain. The angle was that if the chain discovered a sex for contract scandal, they'd want to handle it internally first, possibly by firing or prosecuting Everett. Holly would be collateral damage, but that was on her. That same day, I texted Carmen, the PR manager, telling her I discovered disturbing evidence about Everett's misconduct and I was taking it to the top. She texted back, "Oh my God, Sean. Good luck. I guess this is bigger than I realized, but I didn't want to just do this quietly." A part of me hungered for a more dramatic reveal, the kind that would ensure they couldn't spin it or hush it up. So I decided to wait for the chain's upcoming board meeting gala. I'd overheard Holly mention it was scheduled in 2 weeks. She'd likely be there, Everett too showing off their successes. They might even publicly announce the Delgado contract. I pictured the shock on their faces if I hijacked the event with my evidence. Alan thought it was risky, but he respected my decision. "Just be sure you protect yourself legally," he warned. "If you commit a blatant sabotage, they might come after you for defamation or infiltration of privacy." I smirked. "You forget I used to do infiltration for a living, buddy." "I'll be careful." So I spent those 2 weeks letting Holly believe everything was normal. I played the loving husband, occasionally referencing maybe booking a vacation in the future. She lapped it up, sometimes glancing at me with a hint of guilt. Now and then she'd ask, "Is everything okay?" "You're kind of distant." I'd blame work stress underneath. Every moment with her felt like a farce. I saw her diamond bracelet, the one I'd found in her closet, glinting on her wrist during dinner. Once she noticed me staring and said, "Oh, it's just a little treat I got for myself." I faked a smile. "Looks nice inside." I burned with hatred for Everett and the men who'd financed that little treat. Finally, the day of the big board meeting arrived. Holly was excited, telling me this was where Everett planned to present the Delgado success story to the top brass. If all went well, it'd be a stepping stone for him to become a higher-level executive. She even teased that she might get promoted to a new senior director position. Little did she know, I had no intention of letting that happen. I told her I'd be out that evening again. She gave me a quick, dismissive nod, too focused on her big night. By 6 p.m. she left the house in a sleek business dress, heading to the chain's downtown conference center. I waited 15 minutes, changed into my own suit, and grabbed a small bag with a few gadgets I'd prepared. I arrived at the conference center around 6:45 p.m. The place was buzzing with employees, board members, sponsors. I lingered near an area marked staff only, blending in with a small group of catering workers. My plan was to hijack the presentation with footage. I'd arranged with an AV technician, an old contact from my security gigs, to patch in a preloaded flash drive. Once the main presentation started, we'd play a short but damning montage. I found the AV tech, gave him the signal. He nodded, showing me the laptop that would feed into the big screen. "Just let me know when," he murmured. My heart pounded. Part of me felt sorry that this would be humiliating for Holly, but it was also absolutely justified. She had known exactly what she was doing. At around 7:30 p.m. the lights dimmed in the main hall. I peeked from the back row. Everett took the stage, smiling confidently. Holly stood off to one side, along with other managers. They were about to present key achievements of the quarter. People sipped drinks, polite applause rippling through the crowd. Everett went on about profits, expansions, new markets. Holly beamed. because she'd presumably helped secure Delgado's portion of the revenue spike. He singled her out. And a special thank you to Miss Holly Davis, who's been instrumental in forging strong sponsor relationships. Holly smiled, stepping forward slightly, her chin high. My blood boiled, seeing the hypocrisy. That was my cue. I slipped to the AV station in the back. The tech nodded. I typed the command on his laptop to override the next slide instead of the fancy infographic. My footage began playing on the giant screen, scenes of Holly and Delgado entering the suite, timestamps visible. Then a snippet of text messages scrolled across, referencing entertainment favors Everett's instructions. The room erupted in confusion. People gasped. Everett's face paled. Holly stared, jaw dropping. The text was there in huge letters, quoting her own words about pleasing Delgado. The entire crowd shifted, some craning their necks to see if it was a glitch or a hack. Suddenly, Everett barked, "Kill the feed to the AV staff." But my tech contact had locked them out momentarily. Another montage played, call logs, bank statements, a partial audio clip of Everett saying keep them happy in bed and they'll sign. Holly stepped forward, stammering, "Wait, this is chaos." Board members demanded answers. Some recognized the footage of Holly and Delgado from the hotel cameras. The whispers turned to shouts. I saw Everett lunging for the laptop at the side of the stage. Security tried to block him. Holly spun around, scanning the crowd, possibly looking for me. She spotted me near the back. Her eyes locked. Hers were wide, full of shock and betrayal. I just gave her a cold stare. Then I turned and walked out. Behind me I heard the room erupt. Everett was probably trying to disclaim everything, yelling that it was all sabotage. People would see the truth, the messages, the receipts. No one was going to buy his excuses. I strode down the hallway, my heart pounding with a dark sense of triumph. I'd done it. Unleash the full weight of evidence in front of all the top brass. That board meeting would end with Everett's career in flames and Holly's too out in the lobby. A few corporate employees had their phones out, probably live tweeting or calling colleagues about the fiasco. I took the elevator down, ignoring the stares from passers-by. My entire body hummed with adrenaline. I stepped outside into the cool night air. Car zoomed by. I realized my phone was vibrating. I checked. Holly was calling. I let it ring next. A text popped up. "Sean, where are you? We need to talk now. Please pick up." I turned off my phone. Enough was enough. I hopped in a rideshare, telling the driver to head nowhere in particular, just away from that building, away from the meltdown. I stared out the window at the city lights passing by, the weight of finality settling over me. I'd done it that night. I returned to the motel, not our marital home. I didn't want to face Holly's frantic pleas. Tomorrow I'd see the fallout, maybe from the news, or maybe from a simple phone call from Alan. But one thing was certain. The facade was shattered. Our marriage was effectively over. She'd realized I'd orchestrated that entire fiasco, and Everett would be spitting nails. Fine by me. I'd waited patiently, gathering every shred of proof. Now the consequences would unfold, and I'd watch from a safe distance. I sank onto the motel bed, exhaling deeply. My chest felt tight with a swirl of heartbreak and victory. Strange bedfellows, but if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. They wanted to treat me like a clueless patsy, treat her body like a commodity. Let them burn. After a few minutes, I flicked on the cheap TV, hoping to drown out my thoughts. The flickering neon glow lit up the dingy walls. A local station was on. I half expected to see a breaking news item about a corporate scandal. Not yet, but I knew it was coming. I just lay there, letting the tension slowly seep out of my limbs, telling myself this was only phase one. The fallout was next. I woke the next morning to sunlight slicing through the thin motel curtains. My phone was loaded with missed calls, texts, some from Holly, some from unknown numbers, presumably coworkers or maybe even reporters. The chain's meltdown must have been epic. I scrolled through a few messages. Holly's were frantic. "Sean, please talk to me. We can fix this." Then one that read, "You destroyed my entire career. Why would you do that?" My lip curled. She dared to be outraged at me for exposing her depravity. Another text from Alan. "Dude, they're going ballistic. The chain's board is holding an emergency session. Expect legal blowback, but you have the moral high ground, I typed back. Understood. Thanks. Then I showered, dressed, and left the motel. I felt surprisingly calm. This was the day I'd face Holly. No more illusions. The only question was, would she still be at our house? Or had she run off? When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed her car parked crookedly like she'd arrived in a hurry. I stepped inside to find her pacing the living room, phone clutched in her hand, hair disheveled, makeup smudged like she'd slept in it or not slept at all. She whirled around when she saw me. Oh my God, Sean. Her eyes were wild. What the hell did you do? I shut the door behind me, tossed my keys on the table. Exposed you? I said evenly. She blinked furiously, tears forming. Did you hack that presentation? That was you, wasn't it? I shrugged. Someone had to shine a light on the filth you and Everett orchestrated. She let out a strangled cry. You ruined everything. The Delgado contract. My future. Everett's chance at the executive position. Everything is in chaos. A cold wave of satisfaction washed over me. Yes, exactly as intended. Did you think I'd never find out you were sleeping with sponsors to land deals that you just keep lying to me forever? She pressed her hands to her temples. It's not how it looks, Sean. I was under pressure. Everett manipulated me. I cut her off with a harsh laugh. Don't give me that. I read your messages, saw your bank statements, watched the hotel footage. You volunteered, Holly. You were eager, excited for the big payoffs. She shook her head, tears spilling now. You don't understand. I was stuck. Everett said it was the only way to get promoted or he'd fire me. I stopped lying, I snapped, stepping closer, my voice low. I saw the messages where you offered to handle them alone so I wouldn't be in the way. You wanted the money, the status. You basically prostituted yourself to these men. That's the real story, right? She winced as if I'd slapped her. You can't talk to me like that. I'm your wife. My laugh was hollow. Wife, you gave up that right the moment you used our marriage as camouflage, while you hoard yourself for corporate deals. She sobbed, hands trembling. Sean, we can fix this. We can run away. Leave the city. Start fresh. I'll never do it again, I swear. I was just so ambitious and I thought it was the only route. I stared at her, letting silence draw out. Then I said, cold and final, there's nothing left to fix. You made your bed and now you lie in it. She sank onto the couch, face buried in her hands. They suspended me from work pending a full investigation. Everett's under official review from the board. Investors are threatening to sue the chain for misrepresentation. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Good, I said bluntly. You both deserve that. She glanced up, eyes red. Why couldn't you have just confronted me quietly if you found out? We could have handled it privately. My blood boiled at the sheer gall. Because you needed to face real consequences. And so did Everett. Quiet confrontation would let you weasel out, possibly blackmail me with lawyers, or slip away to another job. I wanted your entire system to crash. She exhaled shakily, wiping tears. You were so cold about it. We used to be a team. A small part of me remembered the sweet times. I banished it. We were a team until you sold yourself to the highest bidder. Now I'm just finishing the fight. You started by betraying me. Her lips parted. You're divorcing me? I nodded. Alan, my lawyer friend, has the paperwork ready. You'll be served soon. The evidence of adultery. Moral turpitude. It's overwhelming. She clasped her hands like she wanted to beg. But that means I'll lose everything. The house, finances. I'll be out on the street. I gave a short, bitter laugh. Too bad, she gulped, tears streaming again. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. I was short-sighted. I wanted success. It started small. Everett just asked me to entertain a minor sponsor, have a drink with him. Then it escalated. It was like a drug. Each big deal gave me a bonus. More status. Before I knew it, I was meeting men in hotel suites. She broke down sobbing. I thought I could keep it separate from us. That you'd never know. Silence hung thick. I could sense she was telling half-truths, but maybe part of that was genuine. Didn't matter. The damage was done. I let her sob for a minute. Then I exhaled, forcing myself to stay calm. You should pack your essentials, I said, voice. Cool. I want you out by tonight. Her head snapped up. Where am I supposed to go? Not my concern, I said flatly. You have plenty of money from your hush accounts, right? Or did you blow it on clothes and jewelry? She flushed. I withdrew some. The rest might be frozen now because of the chain's investigation. They flagged suspicious payments. Oh my god. Her voice shook. I'm basically broke. Then figure it out, I retorted. You can call your parents or couch surf with your friend Vanessa, or maybe Everett will find you a place. Though I doubt he'll be in a position to help. Her expression collapsed into despair. My parents are furious with me. They found out from the news coverage. I don't even think they'll let me step foot in their house. I shrugged. I guess you should have thought of that before you sold your soul. She let out a trembling breath. Realized how serious I was. Then, in a last-ditch attempt, she squared her shoulders. At least let me keep some dignity. Let me gather my things calmly, please. I nodded once. Fine. But be gone by tonight. She stood unsteadily, glancing around our living room, tears welling again. We had so many good memories here, Sean. Are you sure we can't? Positive, I said curtly, refusing to let her manipulate my sympathy. Now go. I can't stand to look at you anymore. She inhaled sharply as if I'd struck her, then walked down the hallway. I heard drawers opening, the rustle of clothes being shoved into suitcases. My chest felt tight, but I kept my face stony, every ounce of heartbreak replaced by cold finality. While she packed, I stepped outside, pacing the driveway. The sky was a drab gray, fitting the mood. I thought about all the times we'd washed our car together, teased each other about leaving wet footprints on the driveway. That was a distant memory, now overshadowed by her betrayals. Eventually, Holly came out lugging 2 suitcases. Hair a mess, eyes puffy. She paused, looking at me. I'll find a hotel, she muttered. And about the divorce, can we at least talk it through with lawyers? Maybe we don't have to go nuclear. I scoffed. Why shouldn't I go nuclear? You did. She set the suitcases down. I know I messed up, okay? But I'm begging you not to drag this out in court. Let's do a quick settlement. You keep the house. Just let me walk away with something so I don't starve. My lips thinned. I'll talk to Alan. We'll see. But you're not getting a damn penny more than the law requires. Don't expect mercy. Her shoulder slumped. I get it. I deserve this, I guess. She gripped the handles of her suitcases. Then I'll go. I'm sorry, Sean. I did love you in my own messed up way. I didn't respond. She stared at me another moment, then trudged to her car, loaded her bags and drove off. My chest felt oddly hollow as I watched her tail lights disappear. But I was resolute. I spent the next few hours tidying up the house. Almost in a daze, I gathered any remnants of her presence, photo frames, random trinkets, and stuffed them in a cardboard box. I'd store them somewhere out of sight. The entire place felt both quieter and strangely liberated. In the late afternoon, Alan called, heard from a source that Everett's been suspended without pay pending the final board ruling. He might face legal action from the chain, maybe even criminal charges, if they determined he was trafficking employees. I nodded, which he couldn't see, of course. Good, I said. What about Holly? She's named as a co-conspirator, but she's not as high up, so they might let her go with a permanent blacklisting from the industry. She's definitely fired. I let out a weary sigh. That's fine. I just wanted them exposed. Alan's tone soft. And, you all right? This kind of personal betrayal can be brutal. My jaw tightened. I'm fine. Just need to finalize the divorce. We arranged to file the official papers that week. I'd cite irreconcilable differences with strong evidence of adultery in Washington. That can still matter if there's significant misconduct. She likely wouldn't get any portion of the house or spousal support. That was enough for me. Later that evening, I sat alone at the kitchen table, swirling a glass of whiskey. The house was eerily silent, without Holly's presence. Despite everything, I felt a pang of loneliness, remembering how we used to share silly moments cooking together or watch a movie on the couch. But then I pictured her leading Delgado into those hotel suites, the little smirk on her face. That recollection stiffened my resolve. She'd made a mockery of our marriage for her own gain. No sense mourning that my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You bastard. How dare you sabotage me? We could have had it all. I guessed it was Everett, or maybe some burner phone of Holly's. I promptly blocked it. Another text from Carmen. I heard you left, Holly. The entire office is in chaos. Everyone's talking about the sex deals. People are kind of relieved. It's finally exposed. I typed back, thanks, glad the truth is out. Carmen responded, yeah, I guess so. I feel bad for you, but you did the right thing. I stared at her words, not sure how to feel. Did I do the right thing or was it just savage revenge? Maybe both. In any case, it was done. The next few days were a blur of administrative tasks. I consulted with Alan, drafted official statements in case the chain's legal team tried to drag me into anything. But they had no grounds to sue me. I was simply revealing wrongdoing, not creating it. Holly texted me sporadically, sounding more desperate each time. I have nowhere to go. I can't afford a hotel long term. Please can I come get some of my stuff? I told her to coordinate with Alan or pick it up when I wasn't home. No more direct contact. She was persona non grata now. Meanwhile, the chain put out a damage control press release stating they discovered certain employees engaged in unethical behavior with sponsors. That an investigation was ongoing. Some media outlets picked up bits of the scandal, especially local business columns. They didn't name Holly specifically, but word got around. She'd be lucky if she ever got hired in this industry again. Alan confirmed she'd likely sign the divorce papers without a fight, given how stacked the evidence was. That was good. No need for a lengthy legal war. I just wanted her out of my life for good. One evening, I found myself rummaging through the bedroom closet. I stumbled on an old photo album from our honeymoon. We'd gone to Hawaii, spent a week snorkeling, sipping cocktails, laughing at each other's sunburns in every photo. We looked so genuinely happy and in love. I sank onto the bed, flipping page after page, feeling an ache in my chest. How did it all go so wrong? Then I reminded myself that people change. Or maybe the seeds of her ambition had always been there, waiting for the right environment to bloom into something toxic. I reached the final page. A silly snapshot of me giving her a piggyback on the beach. She wore a huge grin, arms flung out. My face was half laughing, half sun-struck. I shut the album abruptly. That's gone. I shoved it back into the closet, telling myself the future would be better without her. I could live honestly, not overshadowed by the stench of her betrayals. Still, the heartbreak was real. I'd invested years of my life in this marriage. Now I was left with bitterness and a pile of evidence that I'd used to blow up her world. I guess that was my closure. The knowledge that she'd reaped exactly what she sowed. A week after the big reveal, I met with Alan at a local diner. He slid a packet of documents across the table. Holly signed the divorce agreement. He said quietly, she's not contesting anything. You keep the house, the majority of assets. She's effectively walking away with next to nothing. I exhaled, scanning the papers. All right. Guess that's that. He gave me a somber nod. You sure you're okay, man? This was intense. I gazed out the diner window at the bustling street. A faint sense of relief washed over me. Yeah, I murmured. I'm okay. She's gone. It's done. The chain's cleaning house. I can finally breathe. Alan patted my shoulder. You're a tough sob, Sean. But you know it's all right to feel something about losing your marriage doesn't make you weak. I managed a small smile. I know, I'll deal with it in my own way. For now, I'm just glad the worst is behind me. We parted ways. I drove home, stepping into my house. A house that now felt distinctly mine. No lying spouse lurking. No tension in the air. Just a quiet emptiness. I dropped onto the couch, letting out a long breath. Maybe in time I'd redecorate. Maybe I'd take a trip, see old marine buddies across the country. The possibilities stretched out, tinted with a bittersweet freedom. Through the living room window, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the floor. I stared at them for a moment, feeling a pang of finality. Holly's not coming back. This chapter is done. And if there was any lingering guilt about how brutally I exposed her, I reminded myself she'd orchestrated her own downfall by betraying me so callously. My only regret was not discovering it sooner. With that, I stood heading to the kitchen to fix a simple dinner for one. The silence in the house wasn't oppressive anymore. It was peaceful. Perhaps that was the first step toward real healing. I've always been a morning person, but these days, sunrise feels different. No more awkward hush in the house. No forced small talk over coffee. Just me, my quiet kitchen, and the hum of the refrigerator. Since Holly left, a kind of subdued peace took hold. Sometimes it's comforting. Other times it's lonelier than I'd like to admit. Nearly a week has passed since she moved out. Officially, we're mid-divorce. My lawyer, Alan, says everything's proceeding smoothly. Holly signed a settlement that effectively grants me the house, my car, the lion's share of our savings. She keeps a fraction to avoid utter destitution. It's still more than she deserves in my opinion, but I accepted the settlement for expediency's sake. Work has been typical. A few private security consultations, some data infiltration gigs to test corporate firewalls. Nothing major. When people find out who I am, the guy who exposed that hospitality chain sex for contracts ring, they either treat me like a minor celebrity or avoid me altogether, worried about what secrets I might reveal next. So this morning, I sit at my small breakfast nook, phone in hand, scanning the local news on a tablet. As expected, the scandal still simmers. Everett Glenn, once a rising star, remains under official corporate investigation. Rumors swirl that local authorities might bring charges for fraud or for facilitating what some call sexual bribery. The hospitality chain publicly apologized, promising reforms. Holly's name hasn't appeared in mainstream media, though internal circles know who she is. I skimmed the article with mild detachment. No mention of me by name, they just allude to a whistleblower. That suits me fine. I'm not seeking public glory. Outside, the sky shifts from pale gray to a watery gold. I sip my coffee. The bitterness is pleasant, reminding me I'm alive, free, even if part of me can't shake the emptiness from losing a marriage that once felt so real. Stop it, Sean. I force myself upright, rinse my mug, and decide to face the day with a level head. Around 9, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Carmen, the PR manager who used to work with Holly. Hey, Sean. We haven't talked in a while. Got a minute to chat in person? I raise my eyebrows. Carmen was never close to me exactly, but she gave me hints before everything blew up. Maybe she has intel on how the chain is handling the meltdown. Sure. I text back. We can meet at Maplewood Cafe, say 1030. She replies in the affirmative. I toss on a jacket, lock up the house, and head out. The early autumn breeze feels crisp on my face as I drive. I can't help but recall the last time I visited Maplewood Cafe was with Holly maybe half a year ago. She'd seemed distracted even then, lost in her phone. I'd chalked it up to busy season. If only I'd known. I arrived to find the cafe moderately busy. Carmen sits at a corner table, bright red hair pinned back, wearing a simple blouse and jeans. She waves me over, looking a bit nervous. Sean, she greets, rising to give a quick handshake. Thanks for coming. I nod, sliding into the seat opposite her. No worries. Everything okay? She exhales. Well, that's complicated. I guess you've seen how the chain is reeling. People are terrified about losing their jobs or being implicated if they so much as had a coffee with Everett. I order a black coffee. Carmen orders a latte as the barista walks away. Carmen picks at her napkin. So I figure you might want to hear some updates. And, well, I have a proposition. My gaze sharpens. A proposition. She nods. I'm done with the chain. I resigned yesterday, effectively. I saw too much shady stuff. My conscience can't handle it, but I might have gleaned some info that ties Everett to bigger fish, like certain local politicians or bigger corporate sponsors who bribed him to get prime real estate for new hotels, possibly even in violation of city codes. I tilt my head. Some more dirty laundry. Exactly. And if you or your lawyer want to push further, expose deeper corruption, I can help, but I need some protection, or at least a safety net, because once Everett or the chain's top dogs realize I'm squealing, I'll be blacklisted from the entire PR industry. I fold my arms, leaning back. Carmen, I'm not a crusader. I exposed Everett because he and Holly turned my life into a joke. Are you sure you want me to be the one who blasts these new revelations? I'm not exactly known for a gentle approach. She smiles wryly. I know, but maybe that's what's needed. The chain's board is trying to scapegoat Everett alone, ignoring the possibility that other higher-ups were in on the scheme. If those guys go unpunished, what changes really? I sip my coffee, letting her words sink in. She has a point. My revenge operation effectively toppled Everett, but the system might remain. What's your plan specifically? She lowers her voice, glancing around. I have documentation, emails, phone call, transcriptions that show certain bigwigs from out of state funneling money into Everett's personal accounts. The chain, or at least certain execs, turned a blind eye because the deals brought in huge profit. If we release this, it might lead to a federal investigation, possibly bigger than you realize. A surge of adrenaline pulses through me. On one hand, I'm exhausted from drama. On the other, I hate the idea that scumbags like Everett's enablers might skate by. Let's see what you've got, I say. Carmen nods. I'll bring the files tomorrow if you agree to keep me anonymous for now. I consider I can't promise total anonymity if the feds get involved, but I'll do what I can. Let's meet tomorrow at my place. Noon. Bring everything. She exhales, relief crossing her face. Thanks, Sean. We finish our coffees with small talk about daily life. She mentioned she's freelancing for smaller firms now. No big client. I can relate. We part ways, shaking hands, each lost in thought as I head back to my car. I can't ignore the stirring excitement. Another chance to dismantle the rotted core of that chain. My personal revenge might be done, but apparently the scandal's deeper than I realized, and a part of me wants to see it all collapse. If it's truly built on exploitation. That evening, I do a quick workout in my garage. After a day of short errands and phone calls, I always find lifting weights or hitting a punching bag calms my mind. As I pound away at the bag, I replay Carmen's words, imagining the big honchos who might be funneling hush money or bribes. Could they be using some variation of the same sex service Everett championed? Possibly the chain's entire model might be rooted in corruption. Sweat drips down my neck. I remember how swiftly Holly adapted to that system, once an idealistic events coordinator, soon turning to bribery and seduction. Perhaps the environment was ripe for it. No wonder they soared in profits. Scum, I think, delivering a final punch to the bag. I catch my reflection in a small mirror on the wall, eyes hard, breath ragged. I realize I'm venting anger not just at them, but at Holly, at myself for being so blind. My knuckles sting, but I welcome the pain. Eventually I shower, fix a simple dinner pasta with leftover chicken and collapse on the couch. The quiet hum of the fridge is the only companion in a moment of weakness. I glance at my phone log. No new messages from Holly. She's been silent since the day she moved out. Probably for the best. My mind drifts to the future. The divorce will be final soon. I have the house, my work, a sense of purpose. Maybe I'll expand my security consultancy or do something bigger with my skill set. People keep telling me I have a knack for unearthing secrets. I flick on the TV for background noise, half listening to a news anchor recapping the day's headlines. Suddenly, the anchor mentions the chain by name, referencing ongoing fallout from a scandal involving allegations of sexual favors and corporate bribery. A statement from the chain's PR rep crosses the screen, an apology for individual misconduct, repeated promises to investigate further. I scoff at the phrasing, individual misconduct. They want to pin it all on Everett or a handful of people, ignoring the possibility of a bigger network. Maybe Carmen's new evidence can blow that lie apart at midnight. I retire to bed. Sleep doesn't come easily. My thoughts keep swirling with the notion that I could either let things be my personal vendetta is already fulfilled, or push for a deeper takedown. Then I remember the terrified look in Carmen's eyes. She came to me because in her words, I won't be gentle. She's right. I don't do half measures. Finally, I drift off, her mind swirling with half-formed plans. The next day, Carmen arrives at my house just past noon. She's carrying a slim laptop bag, a nervous expression. I invite her in, offering water or coffee, but she just shakes her head. No, I'm good. Let's get right to it. We settle in my living room. She opens her laptop, then slides a flash drive across the coffee table. This contains scanned docs, emails, and a few audio files I snagged from Everett's old voicemail system. I raise an eyebrow, plugging it into my personal device. How on earth did you get audio from his voicemail? She manages a small grin. I was PR. Remember, I had partial access for official transcripts. At times I was asked to parse his messages for anything requiring a public statement. I saved some backups that looked suspicious. Then after the meltdown, I realized it was bigger than suspicious. Clicking through, I see a folder structure. Emails, Kiev execs, audio, Everett VM financial memos, sponsor deals. A surge of adrenaline hits. Wow, this is extensive. Carmen nods grimly. I tried to gather anything pointing to the chain's leadership or external players. If you scroll down to the folder labeled exec board _approvals, you'll find meeting minutes. They basically confirm the board's knowledge of under-the-table deals. One or two members privately objected, but they were overridden. The name Rothwell might appear. Often he's high up, second to the CEO. I scan a snippet meeting summary. Rothwell endorses a continuing strategy to offer special hospitality for top-tier sponsors. Glenn concurs. Board members request discretion to avoid negative PR. My stomach churns. Special hospitality. The same phrase used in those texts about Holly's private visits. So the board was at least partially complicit. They allowed Everett free rein as long as he brought in big money. Then I open an audio file, a scratchy phone message from some local official referencing expedited permits for the new expansion. Everett's voice in reply. Our team can sweeten the pot as usual. Let me know the date. It's stilted, but the subtext is obvious. Another bribe or sexual favor. Deal. Carmen watches my reaction carefully. You see why I'm spooked? I wasn't about to keep silent. Some big guns are involved. Politicians, board members, you name it. I nod. This is bigger than what I originally exposed. It's not just a few individuals. It's an entire corporate structure endorsing pay-to-play sex as a negotiation tool. Bribery with city officials for expansions. If you let me use this, there's no going back. She fiddles with a pen. I know I want to do the right thing, though, and you're the only one who can blow it open properly. I take a moment, leaning back. All right, I'll forward some of this to Alan. See if we can approach either law enforcement or certain investigative journalists. But you have to be ready for blowback. They might trace the data to you. She exhales. I'll handle it. I already resigned. Worst case, I go start a new life somewhere else. We exchange a wry look like we're co-conspirators in a new mission. So be it. I think it's not purely revenge. Now it's about exposing a deeper rot. I remember how Holly's final pleas included. Everett manipulated me. Maybe that was half true. The environment was indeed ripe for manipulation, but she still made her own choices. I won't give her a pass. But maybe it wasn't purely her personal failing. Carmen and I spend the next hour copying files, discussing potential strategies. She suggests a local investigative journalist named Toby Martinez, known for tackling corruption. I mentioned law enforcement. We decide to do both. Send the files to Toby, then have Alan quietly inform the state attorney's office. Let them coordinate if they choose. After we finalize details, Carmen rubs her temples. I feel relieved, but also terrified. I nod. Understandable, but it's the right move. She musters a small smile. Thanks, Sean. You know, you might come off as a tough guy, but you're doing something genuinely good here. I shrug, a bit uncomfortable with the compliment. I just hate scumbags who think they can buy or coerce anything they want. We'll see how this plays out. Carmen gathers her belongings, leaves me with that flash drive in my possession. I walk her to the door. We stand on the porch for a moment. Crisp air, swirling leaves around our feet. Stay safe. I tell her, if you get any threatening calls or sense you're being followed, let me know. I have some resources. She nods. I will show you too, Sean. Then she heads to her car, and I watch her drive off, mind buzzing with the scale of what we're about to unleash that night. I decide to call Alan. Hey, man, I've got a new trove of data, I say once we greet each other. Carmen from PR delivered a bombshell. This could implicate board members, city officials, you name it. Alan takes a slow breath. Damn, so you're about to blow up half the city. I grimace. Potentially. But I want to be systematic. If I just post it online, the chain might bury it or cry defamation. I want to make sure the right authorities get it first so it can't be squashed. Sure, We can coordinate with the state attorney or maybe the FBI if the money crossed state lines. I can make discreet inquiries. Meanwhile, you might feed it to a respected journalist. Once it's public knowledge, it's harder for the bigwigs to hush up. That's the plan. I confirm. He hums in approval. Your divorce, ironically, might remain separate. If you push this scandal further, Holly could try to shift blame to bigger fish. She might even back your story in hopes of leniency. Are you prepared for that? I pause. The mere thought of cooperating with Holly sickens me. But if it furthers the cause of exposing these criminals, I might swallow my pride. We'll see. She's not on my good side. But if she can help bring them down, I won't stop her. Understood. Alan replies. Just keep me posted. And watch your back, Sean. If the chain or certain board members realize you're behind the second wave of revelations, they might retaliate. I nod to myself. I'm used to threats, but thanks. I'll be careful. We say good night. I stare at the phone for a moment. Adrenaline coursing. They might retaliate. I recall my marine instincts. This is a new battle, and I'm ready. A few days slip by. I proceed with caution. Alan discreetly contacts a junior assistant at the state attorney's office to gauge interest in corporate corruption. Meanwhile, we schedule a coffee meeting with Toby Martinez, the investigative journalist Carmen recommended. He's known for fearless exposés in the local paper and has a decent online following. One afternoon, Toby meets me at the same Maplewood cafe. He's about mid-30s, dark hair, wearing a rumpled jacket, eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. We shake hands, do polite introductions. Then Toby cuts to the chase. Carmen told me you have explosive evidence about the chain's top brass. That's the gist, right? I nod, glancing around the cafe to ensure we're not overheard. Yes, the first scandal was about forced sexual favors for sponsors. Now we've discovered layers of bribery, hush payments, and potential collusion with city officials. I have documents, emails, and some audio that could corroborate it. Toby's eyes sparkle with curiosity. This could be Big Sean, potentially the biggest corporate scandal this city's seen in years. But I need to verify authenticity. I can't publish rumors or forgeries. I get it, I say. I can walk you through it. We can do a chain of custody for the digital files. My lawyers involved were willing to sign affidavits about how we obtained them. Carmen's also prepared to speak off the record. He pulls out a small notepad, scribbling furiously. Perfect. If it checks out, we'll run a series of investigative articles. Could take a few weeks to get all the fact-checking done, but once we go live, it'll be front-page news. I set my coffee, a swirl of excitement and caution in my gut. Understood. If the chain or these officials push back with legal threats, can you handle that? Toby smirks. I've weathered my share of lawsuits. My editor stands behind me if we have solid proof. That's how real journalism works. But yeah, we'll have to brace for heavy pushback. I nod, passing him a short summary of what we have. This is a sample. Full data is in a secure location. Once we see your credentials, you can examine everything with us in a controlled environment. He flips through the summary, eyebrows climbing. Holy shit, he mutters under his breath. This is bigger than I anticipated. All right, I'm in. He looks up. How soon can we schedule a deep dive? I glance at my phone's calendar. Let's do it early next week at my lawyer's office. I'll have Carmen present for clarifications. We'll keep everything hush-hush until we're ready. Deal, Toby says, standing to shake my hand. Looking forward to this. Thanks for trusting me. I stand, returning the handshake. We just want the truth out. People deserve to know. The chain's top executives have been exploiting the system. He nods, eyes gleaming with that journalist's hunger, then heads out. I remain in the cafe for another moment, finishing my coffee. My reflection in the window shows a man driven, no longer consumed by personal revenge, but something bigger. And I realize I'm okay with that. The betrayal might have started as a personal war, but now I'm waging a second front for the sake of principle. You're turning into a vigilante, Sean. I think with a half smile. Maybe so, but it beats being a helpless cuckold. I gather my things and leave. A few more days passed quietly. Then one afternoon, while I'm compiling the final set of files at home, I get an unexpected knock on the door. I check the peephole. Holly. My gut clenches. I consider ignoring her, but curiosity wins out. I open the door a crack. She stands there, hair tied back, wearing a cheap hoodie and jeans, looking nothing like the sleek corporate wife I once knew. Dark circles ring her eyes. "What do you want?" I say, voice edged in ice. She shifts her weight awkwardly. Can I come in for a minute? I need to talk to you." I grit my teeth. "Make it quick." Stepping aside, I let her in, but I remain standing near the entryway. She looks around the living room, noticing some changes, like the missing photos, the empty shelves. A flash of pain crosses her face. "You changed things," she murmurs. I cross my arms. "It's my house now. Remember the divorce settlement you signed?" She nods, wincing. "Look, Sean, I'm not here to argue. She takes a breath. "I lost my job, my reputation. I've been staying at a friend's place, but it's not sustainable. My finances are stuck. The chain froze. Certain accounts. I'm basically broke." I say nothing, letting her words hang. She clenches her fists. "So I was hoping you could help me, at least temporarily. Maybe a short-term loan or a place to crash." I'm desperate. "Sean." Disgust churns in my stomach. "You must be kidding. After everything you did, you come here asking for a handout." Tears glisten in her eyes. I have nowhere else to turn. I bark a bitter laugh. "That's not my problem. You made your bed." She steps close, her eyes pleading. I realize that, but this is beyond my worst nightmare. I can't find work. Everyone knows my name internally. I'm blacklisted. Everett won't answer my calls. My parents refuse to bail me out. I'm out of options. I hold her gaze, letting silence speak for me. Part of me remembers the love we once had, the softness of her voice in better times. But that's overshadowed by the memory of her using her body for deals, lying to my face. "I'm not your safety net anymore," I say. Eventually she swallows. "If I could just get a small sum to rent a room somewhere until I figure out next steps." No, the firmness in my voice is final. "I owe you nothing. You destroyed our marriage for greed. You embarrassed me, lied to me, used me as cover. Then you have the nerve to show up begging after you've reaped the consequences. Unbelievable." She trembles, tears finally spilling. "Please, Sean. I know I was awful, but I regret it every day. I'll pay you back if I can." I stare at her for a long moment, then I step back, pointing to the door. "Leave now." Her face crumbles, but she glances behind me, noticing my computer with a flash drive inserted. "Wait, what's all that?" she asks, perhaps to stall. "None of your business." I snap. "I'm working. Now get out." She exhales shakily, shoulders slumped. "Fine," she whispers. "I am sorry for even asking." She walks to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry, Sean, about all of it." Her voice cracks. "I was too ambitious. It cost me everything." I don't reply. She opens the door and slips out into the afternoon light, letting it shut behind her. A hollow ache stirs in my chest, overshadowed by anger. I remain rooted, staring at the door. She has the gall to ask for help. The nerve. But as I stand there, a flicker of pity sneaks in. She truly looks destroyed, a shell of her former self. "You did this to yourself, Holly." With a harsh sigh, I turned back to my computer. Enough time wasted on that sob story. I have bigger battles to fight. After Holly's unwelcome visit, my mood sours. I plug away at the final data compilation, organizing the evidence for Toby's investigation. That night, I can't shake an undercurrent of disquiet. Like seeing her reminded me that real human lives are caught in these crosshairs, even if she's at fault. I'm not exactly heartless. I distract myself by calling an old Marine buddy, Drew. He picks up, voice cheerful. "Hey man, how's life in Seattle?" I manage a chuckle. "Complicated. You still out in Texas, ranching or something?" He laughs. "Yeah, just wrangling longhorns. Actually, no, I'm doing security for an oil company, but close enough." We exchange some banter, talk about random memories from the Corps. It's the first time in a while I've felt truly relaxed. Drew eventually asks how married life is or if I'm fathering any kids yet. I stiffen, then let out a breath. "No kids, no marriage. Not anymore." "Oh, sorry man," he says, catching my tone. "What happened?" "It's a long story. She cheated. Basically, everything blew up. I'm free, but it's messy. Shit, that sucks. Sean." Let me know if you need anything. You're always welcome to come down here. We got wide open skies and cold beer. I smile faintly. Might take you up on that eventually. Right now I have some business to finish. We chat a bit longer, and by the time I hang up, I feel marginally lighter. Maybe I do need a break after this next big reveal. A getaway somewhere. I glance at the near-finished folder of incriminating documents on my computer. Almost there. Time slides forward to the day we meet Toby for the deep dive. Alan arranges for us to use a conference room at his law firm. Carmen shows up, looking jittery but determined. Toby arrives with a laptop, notepad, and a small portable scanner. We greet each other curtly, then settle around a large wooden table. Alan leads the session. We have reason to believe the hospitality chain's top officials engaged in systematic bribery and sexual exploitation. Carmen has direct knowledge from her PR role. Sean can corroborate with earlier evidence from the meltdown that took Everett down. Toby, you'll be verifying authenticity, correct? Toby nods. Yes. I'll cross-check each piece, confirm email headers, domain logs, etc. Then I'll interview Carmen for background. We want a bulletproof story. We open the laptops, rummage through files, cross-referencing date stamps, reading lines like Everett. As per Roswell's directive, allocate 10K from sponsor bonus to special hospitality for Mr. Delgado. Ensure Miss Davis is assigned or board meeting note. Expand VIP client entertainment budget by 40% per the CFO's instruction. Carmen clarifies that VIP client entertainment was code for personal, sexual or questionable perks. Toby's face grows more aghast with each new piece. They basically set up a corporate structure to cover prostitution. He mutters, all for landing bigger contracts. Alan sets out disclaimers about possible defamation suits. Toby shrugs. If we have real evidence, the truth is on our side. He glances at Carmen. Are you prepared to go on record as a key source? She pales. I can't be publicly named yet. Maybe after we break the story. If there's enough momentum for an official investigation, I just can't be the face of it from day one. Toby scribbles notes. We'll handle that carefully. I can reference an unnamed insider if necessary, as long as my editor sees the proof. This goes on for hours. By the end, Toby's eyes are shining with that journalist fervor. This is massive, he says, leaning back in his chair. I might release it in multiple installments. The chain's board can't spin it as just Everett. Once we show these official meeting notes referencing hush budgets and your audio clips of city officials discussing payoffs, holy hell, that might spawn a separate political scandal. Carmen rubs her temples. I'm relieved it's out in the open, but I'm terrified about blowback. Alan nods. We'll keep your identity sealed as long as possible. If or when law enforcement steps in, you might be subpoenaed, but hopefully they'll treat you as a whistleblower. Toby packs his things, stating he'll contact us soon for final verifications. Then softly, I guess we can publish the first piece in about 2 weeks, maybe sooner if I can confirm sources. We all stand, exhaustion mingled with excitement. Carmen bites her lip. No turning back now. I place a hand on her shoulder. You did the right thing. She exhales. I hope so. I just want them to stop hurting people or hooking staff into these deals. You saw what happened to Holly or presumably others like her. I nod. My mind briefly conjures an image of Holly's tear-streaked face. Yeah, I mutter. No one should get trapped that way. We exchange contact info for next steps. Toby leaves a bounce in his step. He's got a bombshell story. Alan thanks Carmen for her courage, assures her we'll stand by her if the chain tries legal intimidation. Then we all depart outside. The sky is overcast. A fitting hush covers the city. I sense the calm before a storm of new revelations. And I'm oddly at peace with that. Let the truths come out, no matter the chaos. That evening I drive home, wind rattling the car windows. My thoughts swirl with the day's events. Toby's determination, Carmen's fear, the chain's looming downfall. I think of Holly's trembling figure begging for help. Part of me wonders if, in a twisted way, she's also a casualty of the chain's manipulative environment. But I push that aside regardless. The wheels are in motion. The exposé is about to expand. Top officials might face legal scrutiny. City permits might get revoked, possibly even high-profile arrests. This is bigger than my personal heartbreak. Stepping into my quiet home, I feel the hush more deeply than ever. My footsteps echo in the living room. I fix myself a stiff drink, leaning against the counter, letting out a shaky breath. I'm not finished yet. A faint shiver of anticipation runs through me in my reflection on the darkened window. I see a man who's lost a marriage but found a cause. The next wave is about to hit, and I'll ride it to the end. No regrets. The days following our meeting with Toby turn into a waiting game. He calls a few times with clarifying questions, occasionally requesting further details from Carmen. The hush in the city's media about the chain is eerie, like everyone's holding their breath, waiting for the next bomb to drop. Alan warns me that once Toby's article hits, there could be attempts from the chain's lawyers to silence it. They might file an injunction, claim the data was obtained illegally, anything to stall publication, he says. But if Toby's editor stands firm, eventually it'll come out. I weigh that, remembering how Everett tried to kill the audio feed at the initial meltdown. They can't muzzle truth forever, I remark. We'll see how it plays out. Meanwhile, Carmen texts me updates. She's lying low, occasionally seeing suspicious cars parked near her apartment. But it might be her imagination. I remind her to watch for any threats. She's cautious, but resolved. In my own life, I juggle small security gigs. One midday, I'm testing a client's alarm system in a downtown office building. Deftly, I slip through locked doors, checking how quickly the system flags my presence. My mind is partly on the job, partly on the swirling scandal. Suddenly, my phone vibrates. I glance at it. Unknown number. Usually I ignore unknown calls, but I sense something. I step aside, pressing answer. Sean Davis, a smooth voice, says, "That's me." I reply warily, "This is Rothwell." A pause. "Yes, that Rothwell, the board executive. I believe you're in possession of stolen company information." My heart skips. "I have no idea what you're talking about," I say casually, stepping into an empty hallway. He releases a dry chuckle. "Don't play coy. We know you orchestrated that fiasco with Everett's downfall. Now I hear rumors you're feeding a journalist more nonsense. Let's talk like adults. We can come to an understanding that benefits us both." I grit my teeth. An understanding. Indeed, my lawyers could bury you in litigation for the next decade, or we could settle this quietly. Perhaps you'd like a substantial sum for your silence. I can arrange that, a figure that might let you retire early. Anger smolders in my chest. This is typical corporate intimidation, but the mention of hush money hits a nerve. "I'm not for sale," I snap. Rothwell sighs, theatrically disappointed. "Think carefully. The chain is bigger than one man. If you release more stolen data, you risk undermining thousands of innocent employees, not to mention your own legal standing. Let's be civilized." "Screw you," I growl. "You built your empire on lies and sex exploitation. I have no intention of letting you skate by." His tone cools. "You'll regret this when the chain's legal team has done. You'll be left with nothing but lawsuits. And if that doesn't dissuade you, there are other means of persuasion." A threat. My blood runs hot. "Try me," I say through clenched teeth. "But do it quick, I won't hide." He laughs softly. "You think you're some righteous hero, but you're just a bitter ex-husband. I'll give you 48 hours to reconsider. After that, you'll see how swiftly we respond." The line clicks dead. My breath comes in short bursts. I force myself to calm. "So Rothwell reached out. They're onto me." I dial Alan, explaining the call. He curses. "That's intimidation, possibly extortion. Keep a record of it. If they escalate, we can file a restraining order or request protective oversight." I nod, adrenaline spiking. "Got it. Let them come. I'm not backing down." Still, as I end the call, a trickle of unease seeps in. If they are brazen enough to threaten me openly, who knows what they'll do to Carmen or Toby? I hurry to finish my client's alarm test, politely decline a post-job coffee, and head to Carmen's place. She gave me her address in case of emergencies. She's in a modest apartment complex on the edge of Capitol Hill. Battered green paint, narrow parking spots knocking on her door. I keep watch for suspicious vehicles. She opens up, expression tense. "Sean, everything okay?" "No," I say, stepping inside. "Rothwell just called, threatened me they might come after you next." Carmen's face pales. "Shit, I was afraid of that." We sit on her worn couch. I scan her small living room boxes stacked in corners. a half-packed suitcase by the door. You planning on running? She sighs, shoulders slumping. I was thinking about it. If the chain or Rothwell specifically tries something, I don't want to be an easy target, but I have nowhere far to go. No family out of state. I fold my arms. Look, I have a secure friend's cabin about an hour outside the city. Hardly anyone knows it. If you truly feel unsafe, you could stay there for a while. Her eyes widen. Seriously, I don't want to impose. It's safer than waiting here for some intimidation goons. I say grimly, I can set up some security measures. 2 cameras, alarms. Carmen takes a shuddering breath. That might be necessary, especially once Toby's article hits. I can't believe I'm living like this. Like a fugitive for telling the truth. I manage a small, sympathetic smile. You did the right thing. Let's make sure you stay safe enough to see it through. We plan for her to gather essentials. Meanwhile, I'll drive her to the cabin tonight or tomorrow at the latest. She'll keep a low profile while Toby finishes his final checks for publication. That's the plan. I also text Toby, warning him that the chain might retaliate. Toby responds, got it. My editors are all in. We have lawyers ready if they file suits. I exhale, tension coiling in my gut. This is a war, not just a short skirmish, but I'm committed. That night, I returned home to find a small black SUV idling across the street. Instantly, my senses tingle. I circle the block, come back from another direction. The SUV remains no visible occupant except a silhouette behind tinted windows. I parked discreetly in a neighbor's driveway. He's out of town, so he won't mind. Then I walk through my backyard, letting myself in quietly. From an upstairs window, I peer out. Sure enough, the SUV sits there. After about 20 minutes, it drives off. Anger and caution swirl. They're trying to spook me or watch me. I consider calling the police, but that might be overkill for now. Instead, I set up a small motion sensor camera in my front window, pointed at the street. If the SUV returns, I'll get video. I pace my living room, phone in hand, half expecting Holly to text me again or Rothwell to call. But no messages come. Eventually, close to midnight, I slip into bed, sleeping fitfully with my phone on the nightstand. At around 2 a.m. a faint noise outside stirs me. I glance at the phone. No missed calls. I pad to the window, looking out. The street lamp flickers, revealing nothing unusual, possibly just a stray cat rummaging trash bins. Or maybe my nerves. Returning to bed, I lie awake, heart hammering. So this is how it starts. Intimidation, a sense of being watched. But I remind myself I faced scarier stuff in the Marines. If Rothwell thinks he can break me this way, he's mistaken. Finally, I drift into uneasy sleep. Morning comes with a brass ring of my doorbell. I glance at the time, 7:15 a.m. grumbling. I shuffle to the door, peering through the peephole. A suited man, hair slicked back, briefcase in hand, possibly a lawyer or a corporate stooge. I open the door a crack. Yes, he smiles blandly. Sean Davis, I'm serving you with these legal documents on behalf of the chain. He thrusts a manila envelope forward. I snatch it, scanning the label. A cease and desist. Surprise, surprise. He inclines his head. You are formally cautioned to refrain from publishing or distributing proprietary, confidential materials. Any attempt to do so will result in immediate legal action. I let out a humorless laugh. Right, thanks for the heads up. Now beat it. He half bows, turning to leave. I shut the door firmly, the envelope's official stamped with the chain's logo. So they're trying the legal route, just like Rothwell threatened. I tossed the envelope onto my kitchen counter, brew coffee, then take a photo of the docs to send to Alan. He calls me back within half an hour, sounding amused. Pretty standard scare tactic. It claims you illegally obtained these materials, which you know is nonsense. Some data came from Carmen, who had legitimate access. Some from your own personal research. Unless they can prove hacking or theft, they have no real claim. Good, I say. So we can ignore it. All we need to do is file a response that denies their allegations and cites whistleblower protections. Toby's publication can proceed. They might try a temporary restraining order, but we'll fight it. I nod, relief mixing with annoyance. Let them come. We won't be intimidated. Alan chuckles. You sure you don't want a quiet settlement? They might offer big money. I scowl at the phone. Hell no. This chain needs to be gutted. Too many people suffered. If I do nothing, they'll keep the machine going. Or just rename it. Got it? Alan says. I'll draft a formal rebuttal. Hang tight. I hang up, sipping coffee, mind racing. Part of me wonders if Holly received a similar letter, or if they ignore her now that she's worthless to them. She sold her soul for them and they cast her aside. Poetic justice, I think grimly. By mid-morning, Carmen calls me, her voice trembling. They served me to at my apartment a cease and desist for misappropriating company data. I reassure her, don't panic. Alan's handling it. I'll come by in an hour and we'll relocate you to that cabin just to be safe. She sighs. Thank you. I feel like I'm living in a spy movie. After quick errands, I drive to her apartment building, noticing no suspicious cars. Carmen is waiting out front with a small rolling suitcase and a backpack. She looks anxious, scanning the street. We load her stuff into my trunk. Ready? I ask softly. She nods. Yes, let's go. The drive to the cabin takes about an hour, winding into wooded hills north of the city. I'd used this place as a weekend retreat a few times after leaving the Marines, courtesy of an old buddy who inherited it but rarely visits. He gave me a key, said I could use it whenever. The cabin is modest. A single-story structure with a small porch overlooking a tranquil lake. Tall pines loom on every side, providing privacy. Carmen steps out of the car, inhaling the pine-scented air. Wow, this is peaceful. I help her carry the suitcase inside, flicking on the lights. Dust motes dance in the sunbeams. The place is rustic but functional. A living area with a couch, a tiny kitchenette, a bedroom with a worn bed. I hope it's comfortable enough, I say, shrugging. There's running water, electricity, a passable Wi-Fi connection, though it might be slow. Carmen sets her bag on the couch. It's perfect, much safer than my apartment. Thank you, Sean. I nod. I'll rig a few simple security measures. If you see or hear anything weird, call me. If you need groceries, I can bring them or show you the nearest small store. She smiles gratefully. You've done more than enough. Thank you. I install a motion sensor camera by the porch. Place a door alarm that chimes if someone opens it from outside. Then we do a quick check of windows, ensuring they lock properly. By mid-afternoon, Carmen has settled. I give her my second phone number, a burner line in case her main phone gets compromised. She sits on the old couch, hugging a throw pillow. Stay strong, I tell her. If Toby's timeline holds, the article might drop next week. Then the chain will scramble. But I doubt they'll track you here. She exhales. All right. Just keep me posted on any developments. And thanks again. I nod, stepping out as I drive away. I note the quiet hush of the pines, the rippling lake, a wave of relief. At least Carmen's out of immediate harm's way. That evening, back in Seattle, I find a note slipped under my front door. No envelope, just a single typed page reading. Final warning, your revelations will destroy more than just the chain, and this, or face consequences. This is not a bluff. No signature, no name. Another intimidation tactic. I curse under my breath. Scanning the street through the window, no one in sight. I snap a photo for Alan. Text him. He responds. Save it as evidence. This is textbook harassment. My phone pings again, this time from Toby. We're close to publication. Expect them to escalate. My editor has our lawyers on standby. I slump onto my couch, massaging the tension in my neck. The chain is going Alan on intimidation, but it only fuels my determination. The bigger question is whether they'll try physical violence. I vow to be ready. If so, after a quick meal, I set up a digital watch, an old friend's tool that logs suspicious phone pings or Wi-Fi connections near my property. If any weird signals appear, I'll see them. Paranoid? Maybe, but better safe than sorry. As I do this, my mind flickers to Holly. She's probably cowering somewhere, or maybe couch surfing. The chain's meltdown hammered her future. A pang of pity tries to surface, but I clamp down on it. She's not my responsibility anymore. 3 days later, Toby calls with excitement. We're publishing the first major story tomorrow morning. Front page. My editor gave the green light once it hits. Brace yourself. My heart thuds. All right, I'm ready. Let the chips fall. He says they're leading with the board-level knowledge of Everett's special hospitality. They'll name Rothwell, mentioned leaked memos highlight the city official phone calls. It's a bombshell. I let Carmen know. She just says God in a faint voice. Then I check on her cabin cameras. All quiet. The tension builds like a thundercloud. That night, I barely sleep, half expecting a break-in or a drive-by. But nothing happens. Morning dawns. I wake early, brew coffee, open the local papers. Online edition. There it is. A blazing headline exposing the hotel giant's secrets. Documents reveal board-approved sexual favors, bribery, and more. The byline Toby Martinez. The article includes quotes from an anonymous whistleblower, references to official memos about special hospitality, audio transcripts from calls with city officials, details of hush funds. My name isn't mentioned, though Toby does mention the same whistleblower who initially exposed Everett's wrongdoing. I read it word for word. Adrenaline pumping. The chain is singled out for rampant corruption. The piece ends with a promise of more installments in coming days. Within hours, the story goes viral locally, picking up traction on social media. My phone lights up with pings. Acquaintances sending me the link. Alan texting. It's live. Let's see them squirm. By noon, the local news channels pick it up discussing Toby's revelations. I watch one anchor sum it up. A major scandal continues unfolding at the hospitality chain, with new evidence suggesting top-level executives sanctioned unethical, possibly criminal practices. Then they mention Rothwell by name. I smirk. He tried to buy my silence. Now the public sees him for what he is. While I munch a sandwich for lunch, my phone rings. It's a number I recognize from the chain's old front desk. Possibly a PR rep or something. Should I answer? Screw it. I pick up. Yeah, a woman's voice shaky. Sean, it's me, Holly. I tense. What do you want? She exhales. I saw the article. Everyone's talking about it. Rothwell is going ballistic. They're throwing Everett under the bus, but now the board is implicated, too. I lean forward, so that's the truth. She swallows audibly. Yes, I know, I want you to know I'm cooperating with an investigator who reached out to me. They want my statement about Everett and the board's instructions. They said it could help build a bigger case. I'm telling them everything. I pause, digesting. That, fine, good. If you can shed more light on how the system worked, it'll help bury them. She sniffles. Maybe tears. I'm not doing it to bury them. I mean, maybe I am, in a sense. They used me, manipulated my ambition. I'm not excusing my part. But I see now how the board let Everett operate with impunity. A flicker of grudging sympathy stirs. At least you're doing something useful now. That doesn't change what you did to me. I know, she whispers. I'm not expecting your forgiveness. I guess I wanted you to know I'm cooperating and that I support the revelations. People deserve the truth. I remain silent, conflicted. Finally, I mutter, if that's all. She breaks in. Wait, one last thing. Thank you for not letting them bury this. I see the bigger picture now. I can't tell if it's sincerity or manipulative guilt. Doesn't matter. Sure, I say tersely, then hang up. Setting the phone aside, I realize my hand trembles slightly. Holly's helping the investigation. Great, maybe it'll expedite the chain's downfall. I try to move on, finishing my lunch in a haze over the next 48 hours. Toby publishes a second installment with more documents. The entire city's ablaze with talk. Hotel giants, corrupt empire headlines scream. Politicians scramble to distance themselves. Some city officials quietly resign. The chain's stock plummets. They fire back with statements denying wrongdoing, blaming rogue elements, but Toby's evidence is too robust. One night, I check on Carmen at the cabin. She's holding up all right. No visitors. She's both scared and relieved that the truth is out. I guess we just watch how it unfolds now, she says, hugging her knees on the couch. Yeah, I agree. The authorities might step in soon. Then Rothwell and whoever else is behind this will face real charges. She nods, eyes clouded. Part of me worries they'll lash out violently if cornered. Be careful, Sean. I meet her gaze. I will. You two keep the door locked. We share a brief, earnest hug, just a platonic gesture of mutual solidarity. Then I head back. In the following days, the chain's meltdown accelerates. They announce emergency board reorganization, suspensions of multiple execs. Rumors swirl that Rothwell fled the state or is holed up in a private estate. City investigators confirm they're opening a formal inquiry. Meanwhile, Toby hints that a third article is incoming, focusing on direct ties between the chain and certain bribed officials. I remain vigilant. The black SUV across my house appears again, but leaves after a short while. I file a police report for harassment, though not much can be done unless they catch them in the act. At night, my phone glows with a sense of closure. The entire system that exploited employees like Holly is crumbling. Part of me feels strangely numb, like I expected more of a personal catharsis. But maybe that's just the reality of being a soldier. The real satisfaction is in knowing the enemy can't harm you anymore. Sitting in my dimly lit living room, I stare at the quiet street. The hush is thick like the calm after a storm, but I sense one last tempest brewing, the final confrontation with Rothwell or any other big fish cornered. They might do something desperate. I vow to see this through. A new development jolts everything forward. The state attorney's office holds a press conference announcing a formal criminal investigation into the chain's board members, citing possible racketeering, bribery, and illegal coercion of employees for sexual services. Everett is named as a primary suspect, but so is Rothwell, along with a handful of unnamed execs. I watched the press conference on my laptop, heart racing. The Attorney General stands at a podium reading a prepared statement. We have credible evidence that high-level executives systematically facilitated or condoned unethical conduct, including sexual exploitation, hush payments, and bribery of local officials for permit approvals. My phone rings mid-broadcast. I pause the video. Answer, Toby. We did it, Sean. He blurts, excitement overshadowing caution. This is huge. The state is officially stepping in. I let out a breath. Yeah, seems so. Good job on your end, Toby. He chuckles. Couldn't have done it without your docs and Carmen's. They're citing them as key evidence. So it's official now. The chain can't bury this. I feel a wave of relief. Well, let's see how it plays out. They might still try something. Toby lowers his voice. Drew. But with the feds possibly stepping in, Rothwell can't strong-arm the entire justice system. He might run or cut a deal. Either way, he's done. My chest tightens at the thought of Rothwell running or turning violent. Keep an eye out, Toby. We say our goodbyes. I return to the press conference, seeing the Attorney General reaffirm protections for whistleblowers. That's good news for Carmen, presumably, and for me, if they try to claim I hacked them. Later that day, I drive to the grocery store, a mundane chore, but I relish the normalcy wandering down the produce aisle. I recall a time months ago when I shopped with Holly. She was texting Everett about some sponsor ignoring me. Feels like a lifetime ago. I toss apples, bananas, some spinach into my cart, then round the corner toward the dairy section. Suddenly, a figure steps into my path. A tall, broad man with a shaved head wearing a black jacket. He locks eyes with me, a sneer curling his lips. Davis, right, he says, voice low. I tense trouble. Who wants to know? He glances around, stepping closer. You're messing with powerful people. They don't appreciate it. I roll my shoulders, adrenaline spiking. Get out of my face. He smirks, just delivering a message. Back off, or your next phone call might be from the morgue. My breath hitches. A direct death threat in the middle of a grocery store. Yeah, you planning to kill me? Right here next to the yogurt. He snorts. Not me, but accidents happen. Might be the shame if that nice lil house of yours caught fire, or if a friend had an unfortunate mishap. Rage flares. Leave my friends out of it. I growl. He just shrugs. Up to you. Shut it down. No more exposing the chain or we shut you down permanently. Then he brushes past me, vanishing down an aisle. I stand there, knuckles white on the cart handle, heart hammering. I want to chase him, but if he's armed or has backup, that could end badly. The store is full of innocent bystanders. Instead, I take a moment to calm. He can't scare me off, but his reference to a friend might mean Carmen or Toby. Damn, I abandon the cart, rushing outside to see if I can spot him leaving. By the time I reach the parking lot, there's a sea of cars. No sign of the shaved head thug. My fists clench in frustration. I call Alan breathless, explaining. He curses. This is escalating. We should alert the police, file an official report. Maybe Toby can highlight it in a follow-up piece. Agreed, I say, but first I'll check on Carmen. He urges caution, tells me to watch my six. I vow to do so, then hang up and drive straight toward the highway leading to the cabin. I arrive near dusk. The pine trees cast long shadows pulling up. I see no suspicious cars. Carmen emerges onto the porch, eyes anxious. Sean, everything okay? I fill her in on the threat. She pales. They singled out a friend. That could be me or Toby. Are you so messed up? I nod, scanning the perimeter. We have to assume they might try intimidation here. Let's see if the cameras caught anything. We check the porch camera footage. No one approached recently. Inside the door, alarm is intact. Seems quiet. Carmen rubs her arms, unsettled. Maybe I should relocate again further away. But I have nowhere else. I take a breath. If you want, I can stay here a couple of days. Keep watch. Or we can call local law enforcement. Let them know you're a whistleblower. Under threat. She paces. I don't want to drag the local cops into this. They might be clueless. But having you here for a day or two would help me sleep. If it's not too much trouble. I nod. Sure, let me text Alan. Let him know I'll be out of the city a bit. I'll pick up some groceries. We'll hunker down. She manages a grateful smile. Thank you. That night, I make a supply run to a small convenience store in the nearby town, then set up my sleeping bag on the cabin's couch. Carmen offers me the bed, but I decline. She needs it more than I do. Staying in the cabin reminds me of my Marine days. Sleeping in forward outposts, always alert. The crickets chirp outside, a gentle lake breeze rustles the pines, yet tension thrums beneath it all. I keep a sidearm in my duffel, not wanting to brandish it unless absolutely necessary. Carmen goes to bed early. Worn from stress, I remain by a lantern, reading up on the chain's latest meltdown. Toby's third article highlights city officials who allegedly received lavish gifts. Online commenters speculate arrests are imminent. Sometime past midnight, I step onto the porch, scanning the moonlit lake. The reflection shimmers eerily calm. My mind wanders. What if the chain's thug tries something here? I'm prepared. I hear the door creak behind me. Carmen steps out wearing a light sweater. Eyes bleary. Can't sleep, she murmurs. I nod, passing her the thermos of tea I brewed. She takes a sip, leaning against the porch railing. I keep thinking about how this was my life a month ago, working a corporate job, believing in the chain's brand. Now I'm a hunted whistleblower. I offer a sideways smile. We adapt. You did the right thing. She glances at me, an odd intensity in her gaze. You did too with your ex-wife. If you hadn't started unraveling that fiasco, who knows how long this would continue? I sigh, looking at the lake. I guess it was personal for me at first. Now it's bigger, but I can't pretend it was purely altruism. She places a hand on my arm gently. Even so, you ended up helping more victims than you realize. Staff who were coerced, people who felt trapped, like Holly. Ironically, I stiffened at that name. She senses it and falls silent. Eventually, she says, sorry if that was insensitive. I shake my head. It's fine. She made her choices. But yeah, I guess others might have been forced more than she was. We stand quietly, the soft slosh of water against the shore. In another life, this might be a romantic moment. Two lonely souls braving adversity together. But right now, it's overshadowed by fear. Finally, I nudge her. We should get some rest. We'll keep watch, but hopefully no one knows this place. She nods, heading back inside. I linger a moment, inhaling the pine-scented air. Then I follow, locking the cabin door behind me. The next day dawns bright and calm. We share a simple breakfast of oatmeal and coffee. Carmen checks her phone for Toby's updates. Apparently, City Hall is in uproar. Some officials indicted. The chain's CEO is rumored to be on the verge of resignation. The board is in shambles as we chat. My phone buzzes. It's Alan. I answer on speaker so Carmen can listen. Morning, he says, voice urgent. Got news? The chain's lead counsel approached me about negotiating some sort of settlement or gag order for you and Carmen. They're basically in panic mode. Carmen makes a face. So they want us to hush up again. Alan laughs mercilessly. Yes, but the cat's out of the bag. Toby's articles are unstoppable. A gag order won't unpublish them. They're desperate. I exhale. So we say no. Obviously. Of course, Alan replies. Just wanted to keep you informed. Also, Rothwell is rumored to be lawyering up, but no official arrest yet. My guess is he might try to flee. The state attorney's office is probably building a case for a grand jury. Harmon hugs her knees. Good. Let him run. Let them all burn. Alan warns us to remain vigilant. They might escalate harassment. Let me know if anything suspicious arises. We end the call. Carmen sets her phone aside. A settlement after all their threats. Desperate, indeed. I nod. We stand firm. If they want to apologize publicly or pay restitution to staff, that's on them. We're not signing any hush deals. She smiles. Thank you, Sean, for not betraying my trust or Toby's. I wave off the gratitude, though it does warm me a bit. By midday, I realize I should check on my own house. I can't hide in the cabin forever. Carmen is reluctant to see me go, but I reassure her. I'll come back if needed, or you can call me anytime. Lock the doors. Watch the cameras. She nods. Be safe out there. I drive back to the city, adrenaline thrumming. Upon reaching my street, I notice no suspicious SUVs. My front yard looks undisturbed. Good sign. Inside, I find a business card tucked under the door. Detective Carlson, Seattle PD, possibly investigating the chain's fiasco. I call the number. He answers politely, requesting a meeting to discuss any evidence I have. We agree to meet at a neutral location, a downtown coffee shop. I head there, curious what angle the detective has. Detective Carlson is in his 50s, salt and pepper mustache, wearing a rumpled blazer. We sit at a corner table, each with a coffee. He flips open a small notebook. Mr. Davis, I'm part of a task force cooperating with the state attorney's office. We understand you initiated the initial exposure of Everett Glenn and you may have knowledge of broader corruption. Some of your files ended up with journalists. We're hoping you can confirm certain details for our official investigation. I weigh the request. I'll cooperate, but I want to ensure I'm not incurring liability. My lawyer says we're good. If the data was obtained legally. Carlson nods. Exactly. We won't charge you with anything. We just want clarity, like how you came into possession of certain meeting memos or audio from Everett's calls. I give a succinct account. Carmen was a PR manager, had legitimate access. She became a whistleblower. I was the middleman, basically. He jots notes. Thank you. That's consistent with what we gathered. Also, if you recall any direct threats from chain affiliates, we'd appreciate statements. We have reason to believe intimidation attempts were made on multiple fronts. I mentioned the black SUV, the grocery store incident, the typed note. He nods, lips pursed. We'll keep that in mind if we identify the individuals we'll bring charges for harassment or worse. Before concluding, Carlson leans forward. We suspect Rothwell might skip town. If you hear or see anything about him or others, let me know. We want to prevent him fleeing before we can indict. Got it? I say I'll keep my ears open. He thanks me, shaking hands. As he leaves, I feel a spark of optimism. The police and state attorney's office are unifying to bring these scumbags down. This is no longer just my battle. A few more days passed with Toby's articles dominating local headlines. The chain's CEO resigns under pressure. The board dissolves into chaos. Stocks crash further. The city experiences public outcry about the bribed officials. Holes in the permit approval process come to light. Then a bombshell: the Attorney General announces they secured a warrant for Roswell's arrest on charges including racketeering and conspiracy to commit bribery. News flashes show cops searching for him, but he's nowhere to be found. Some outlets claim he hopped on a private jet. Others say he's holed up in some remote property. I watched the coverage with a grim sense of satisfaction and a tinge of apprehension. A cornered criminal can be dangerous. That evening, as I try to decompress with a beer, my phone rings. Unknown number. My gut churns. Possibly another threat. I answer carefully. Hello. A frantic voice. Sean. Oh my God. Help me. It's Holly. My stomach drops. What's going on? She's panting, voice trembling. He's here. Rothwell. He tracked me down somehow. He's demanding I help him hide or give him inside info. I said no and he threatened me. Sean, I'm freaking out. My jaw tightens. Where are you? She rattles off an address. Some seedy motel near the interstate. Her voice cracks. I was staying here cheaply. He just showed up, said if I don't comply, he'll kill me. I exhale sharply. This is insane. But if she's telling the truth, Rothwell is desperate. Holly might be in real danger. Lock yourself in. Call the police, I order. Her voice shakes. He cut the phone line here. My cell is dying. I don't know if the cops will get here in time. Please, Sean. Against my better judgment, I say I'll come. Send me the room number. She gasps in relief. Thank you. Oh, God. Hurry. The line goes dead. I throw on a jacket, secure my sidearm. This could be a trap, or it could be real. Either way, if Rothwell is cornered, he might do something rash. Damn it, Holly. I rush out the door, heart pounding. The drive to the motel is nerve-wracking. I call 911. Quickly explain a possible hostage situation. The dispatcher says they'll send units. I only hope they arrive quickly or that I can intervene if needed. The motel is a decrepit two-story building. Flickering neon sign. I spot Holly's car in a corner near a dimly lit stairwell. My phone pings a text from her room 208. Parking discreetly, I exit, scanning the area. No sign of Rothwell or any suspicious vehicles. The second-floor walkway is poorly lit. I climb the worn steps, sidearm holstered under my jacket. At room 208, the door stands ajar. My heart thrums. Quietly, I peek inside. The overhead light is off. A single lamp casting shadows. Holly sits on the edge of the bed, eyes wide with fear. She sees me, motions with a trembling hand. He's in the bathroom. She mouths. Suddenly a figure steps out from the bathroom. Tall, wearing a dark coat. Rothwell, the man from the change board. His eyes flick to the doorway, seeing me. Well, he sneers. The meddling ex-husband. I step in cautiously, sidearm at the ready, but not drawn. Leave her alone, Rothwell. The cops are on the way. He laughs. A hollow sound. Cops. You have no idea how many high-level friends I have. I can slip away. But first he whips a small handgun from under his coat, pointing it at Holly. She yelps. My adrenaline spikes. I keep my hand near my holster. You shoot her. You'll never leave this state alive. He motions for me to raise my hands. Drop your weapon or she's dead. I raise my hand slightly, stepping forward. All right, calm down. Holly whimpers, tears streaming. Roswell's eyes dart around, mania in them. Everything I built undone by you fools. Now I'm desperate, and desperate. Men do desperate things. I manage a steady tone. The game's over, Rothwell. Don't do something irreversible. He smirks. I can't go to prison. That's irreversible enough. Sirens wail in the distance. Rothwell gaze flickers to the window. Shit. They're here. In that split second, I seize the opening. My marine reflex lunge forward, hooking my arm up to deflect his gun. He fires a wild shot that embeds in the wall. Holly screams, diving aside. We grapple, me slamming his wrist against the doorframe. Another shot cracks, the air scorching hot near my ear. Desperation surges. I twist his arm, forcing him to drop the gun. He needs me in the ribs. Pain explodes, but I hold tight. The motel hallway bursts with red and blue flashing lights. I hear footsteps pounding outside. Rothwell tries to break free, nails scraping at my face. I must have a final surge slamming him into the bed's edge. He collapses, dazed. Police burst in, guns drawn, yelling, freeze. Hands up. I release Rothwell, raising my hands. He's half conscious, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Cops swarm, disarming him. Another officer checks on Holly, who's sobbing in a corner. Adrenaline screams in my veins, ears ringing from the gunshots. The cops swiftly cuffed Rothwell, reading him his rights. Outside, more sirens. They also question me. But Holly cries out, he saved me. Rothwell was going to kill me. I step back, chest heaving. By the time they calm everyone, paramedics arrive, checking for injuries. I wave them off, except for the bruise forming on my side. A detective on scene recognizes my name, nods respectfully. We have a warrant for Rothwell. Thank God you intervened. I nod numbly, seeing them haul Rothwell away. Face twisted in hatred, he spits at me, hissing, "I'll see you in hell." I say nothing. The cops drag him off. Amid the chaos, Holly collapses into tears, shaking violently. A paramedic wraps a blanket around her shoulders. I stand to the side, not sure what to feel. She looks at me with watery eyes. "Thank you," she stammers. "You saved me." I nod, arms folded. "Didn't want you dying on me." The detective waves me over to take a statement. I explain the situation as succinctly as possible. She called, said Rothwell threatened her. I arrived. Scuffle ensued. Shots fired. Cops showed up. After half an hour, the scene is under control. Rothwell gun is bagged as evidence. Bullet holes in the wall documented. Holly's statements confirm he wanted her to provide safe passage, but she refused. Finally, the cops let me go. I approach Holly, who's still trembling. "You're going to be all right," she sniffles. "I think so." I can't believe he was so unhinged. I shrug. "He was cornered. Figured you were an easy hostage. Good thing the cops came." She clenches the blanket, eyes darting away. "I'm sorry for everything again. I know it's worthless now, but you keep saving me even after what I did." A swirl of emotions churn. "I'm not doing this out of love," I clarify softly. "Just didn't want to see you gunned down." She nods, tears returning. "Still, I owe you everything." We stand in awkward silence until paramedics encourage her to go to the hospital for a check. She glances at me. "Will you come or do you want me to vanish?" I sigh. "You should focus on yourself. I have business to handle." She looks defeated but nods. "Okay." She's helped into an ambulance. I watch it pull away, the swirling lights fading into the night. Rothwell is in custody, the chain's biggest protector behind bars or soon to be. My ribs ache from the fight. My mind whirls with exhaustion, but a deep sense of closure settles. This is the final blow to that corrupt empire. I drive home in a daze, stopping to buy pain relievers for my bruised side. The city lights blur by. My phone buzzes with texts from Alan, Toby, Carmen, each reacting to the news that Rothwell was arrested after threatening Holly, who ironically turned out to be a key piece in luring him out. At last, I step into my dark house, leaning on the wall as the wave of relief hits. It's over. The chain's top scumbag is caught. The board is imploding. Soon the justice system will finish the job. I swallow a shaky breath, reminding myself how far I've come since discovering Holly's betrayal. I started with raw rage, ended up unmasking a corporate monster. Maybe the city is a bit cleaner now. Slumping onto the couch, I let out a deep exhale. The quiet resonates. I realize I'm free, truly free. No more cowering or plotting or worrying that they'll outmaneuver me. They're done. The following morning, I wake with a stiff bruise on my left rib cage, courtesy of Rothwell thrashing, but the phone messages pouring in overshadow the discomfort. Toby left a voicemail, excitedly explaining how Rothwell arrest is front-page news. Carmen texted me a relieved cheer. Alan wants a final debrief. I sip coffee gingerly, each breath reminding me of the bruised side. The local newspaper's website features a giant headline: Key hotel executive arrested after armed confrontation. Crackdown on corruption escalates. Toby's byline, of course. Scrolling through, I see mention of how Rothwell targeted a woman who refused to assist his escape and an unnamed former Marine intervened. I guess they left out my name. Fine by me. By midday, I meet Alan at his office. He greets me with a grin, clapping my shoulder carefully so as not to hurt my bruise. "Heard you took down Rothwell personally. You always won for the dramatic, Sean." I shrug, grimacing at the soreness. "Didn't plan it. He threatened Holly. I guess she was disposable to him." Alan nods. "Well, the Attorney General's building an even stronger case now. Attempted assault with a deadly weapon, resisting arrest, plus the prior corruption charges. He's going away for a long time." We finalize some documents relating to the chain's threatened lawsuits. Now that Rothwell is arrested, the chain's new interim leadership is in damage control. They'll likely settle any defamation suits Toby might face, Alan explains. Or they'll just let it drop. They can't fight this war on all fronts. I nod. Good. Then Toby's coverage stands. Alan flips a page. As for your divorce, it's effectively concluded. The final decree is in. Holly is on her own. Any leftover joint accounts are in your name alone. Relief floods me, so I'm officially done with that chapter. Indeed, he says, pushing the final signed docs across the desk. Congratulations. Or condolences, whichever suits. I exhale. It's a relief, mostly. After leaving Alan's office, I decide to check on Carmen at the cabin one last time. The drive is calm, nothing suspicious. The sun filters through pine branches overhead. She's on the porch reading a paperback. Her eyes light up when she sees me. Hey, I heard about Rothwell. Holy cow. I park and walk up, rubbing my tender side. Yes, that was intense. But it's over. They booked him. Carmen sets the book aside, listening intently as I recount the motel confrontation. She shudders. Glad you're okay. That could have ended badly. I nod. Holly's safe. Ironically enough, she scoffs softly. Seems she's as much a victim as a perpetrator. But at least no one died. We step inside, where I notice she's already half-packed, planning to leave soon. I ask. Carmen nods. I think it's time. Toby says the big revelations are done. The chain's top brass is either arrested or resigning. The city has new rules for event permits. My job as a whistleblower is basically finished. She glances around the cabin. I might try to start fresh in another city, far from the chain's shadow. Thanks again for letting me stay. It was a lifesaver, literally. I wave off her gratitude. You did the brave part, handing over the files. I just offered a hideout. She smiles, eyes warm. You're a good man, Sean, even if you pretend to be all tough. If you ever need anything or if you're in my new town, look me up. I grin, giving her a light hug. Will do. Keep me posted on where you land. She helps me gather up the cameras and indoor alarm I'd placed. Then we share a last cup of coffee on the porch. The lake shimmering. A sense of calm finality hangs in the air. We won, I think, grateful for this quiet moment. Back in Seattle, days roll by with minimal drama. The chain's meltdown is nearly complete. Their PR tries to salvage what's left, but Toby's articles keep revealing new layers of rot. Politicians implicated have either resigned or face charges. The city's public welcomes the house cleaning. I focus on my security consultancy, picking up new clients who ironically trust me more because of my whistleblower role. My reputation soared among certain circles. That's a silver lining, I guess. One afternoon, I'm sifting through leftover documents at home, deciding what to shred, what to archive. The hush is nice. My phone buzzes a text from an unfamiliar number. Hi, it's Holly. I'm being discharged from the hospital soon. Just wanted to say thanks again. I'm sorry for everything, and I won't bother you further. Take care. I stare at it a moment, heart oddly heavy, a swirl of finality. She's effectively saying goodbye for good. Part of me wants to ignore it, but I type back. Get well. Good luck with your life. No more words needed. I sense that's the last contact we'll have. A week later, Toby publishes a final wrap-up piece, Aftermath of the Hotel Empire's Fall. It's more reflective, detailing the chain's future restructuring, the trial dates for Everett Rothwell and implicated board members, mention of how some employees are reorganizing under new leadership, vowing ethical reforms. Toby also hints at an upcoming city ordinance to prevent future pay-to-play expansions. Reading it, I feel a deep sense of closure. The system that trampled so many is dismantled. Everett rots in jail. Rothwell is facing trial. The board is gutted and unscrupulous city officials are exposed. My personal heartbreak inadvertently triggered a wave of justice. It's surreal, but gratifying. I closed my laptop, stepping outside. The sky is bright, the day mild. I realize I haven't truly breathed freely in months. Now it's like the air is clear. That afternoon I get a small package delivered. Inside is a letter from some law firm representing the chain, basically acknowledging a new management team, disclaiming that the chain regrets the misconduct of former officials, etc. They want me to sign a statement that I won't pursue further legal claims. It's not a gag order, more of a formality. I show it to Alan. He shrugs. They're hoping you'll sign to avoid any potential lawsuit from your side. If you do, they promise not to countersuit for the meltdown, essentially a mutual release. Up to you. I mull it over. I'm not planning to sue them anymore. My revenge is done, so maybe I'll sign it. He nods. Then we can finalize that and close this chapter entirely. I sign, feeling an odd pang. This is truly the end. Time passes more peacefully now. Carmen moves out of state, sending me the occasional text about her new freelance PR gigs. Toby continues investigative journalism, occasionally tackling other corporate malfeasance. He remains a friend, texting me random tips about new security gigs. One breezy afternoon, I find myself driving by the old chain's flagship hotel. The sign is replaced with a smaller name, presumably a rebranding. The building is under partial renovation. I stare at it from the street, remembering the night I first discovered Holly's double life. At that corporate gala, feels like an eternity ago. My phone rings. It's Drew, my old Marine buddy from Texas. "Hey, you big shot," he jokes. "Saw the news up here. You took down a whole corporation. Got to say, you always did go big." I chuckle. "Yeah, it got out of hand, but it's settled now." Drew invites me to visit his ranch again. Maybe decompress. I consider it might do that soon. I say I need a break as I hang up. A wave of relief hits. Maybe it's time for a fresh start like Carmen. Moving beyond the haunted city. But Seattle is still my home, at least for now. Returning to my quiet house, I notice how it feels. More like my space. Minimal decor, no trace of Holly's style. I used to resent the emptiness. Now it symbolizes freedom. I brew a cup of tea. Coffee's too harsh on my bruised side lately. Stepping to the window outside, a faint breeze stirs the trees, the sun angled low. I recall the chaos of these months. The heartbreak, the revelations, the battles, and how, in the end, the truth won out. Holly's final text was a turning point, an unspoken agreement. We'd never reconnect. She's paying for her choices, forging some new path. Everett's in jail. Rothwell awaiting trial. Carmen is safe in another state. Toby's thriving with his career. I realize I'm the last piece left to pick up my own pieces. But that's all right. I survived with my dignity intact, if a bit scarred. I can handle it. A day later, I stand in my backyard, flipping through an old photo album. The honeymoon pics. I'd stashed them away, but retrieve them now. Maybe for closure. The images of Holly beaming on a beach. Me grinning like a fool. I let out a breath, half smiling at our naive happiness. We were so young. One by one, I tear the photos from the album, feeding them into a small fire pit. I set up the flames, curl the edges, turning them black. I watched the past disintegrate, a swirling dance of ashes. It's not a petty gesture. It's symbolic, letting go of the illusions, the heartbreak. I'm forging a new life, unburdened by those memories. When the last photo crumbles, I tossed the album itself on the embers. Smoke rises, tangy in the breeze. My chest feels lighter than it has in ages. I glance up at the sky. The day is bright, open, onward I think. That evening I finalize a plan with Drew. I'll take a few weeks off, drive down to Texas, help out on his ranch. Manual labor, wide open skies. Therapeutic. Alan jokes that if any new scandal emerges, I can tackle it after I recharge. Toby says I deserve the break. Carmen texts, "Enjoy the quiet. You more than earned it." I pack a duffel, lock up the house before I go. I do one last pass through each room, verifying windows closed, lights off. The quiet house stands as a testament to everything that happened. Stepping out, I lock the door behind me. I'll be back eventually, I reassure myself. But for now, I need distance. In the driveway, I pause, phone in hand. My finger hovers over Holly's contact. Then I remember I deleted it. No need. She's not part of my life anymore. I start the engine, pulling onto the street. The city's late afternoon bustle flows around me. The chain is a memory, an example of how greed devours people. But they faced justice in large part because a betrayed husband refused to be silent. Merging onto the highway, I feel that faint stirring of adventure. Another chapter awaits me, free from the shadows of betrayal. If adversity comes again, I'll be ready, just as I was for this. The sun dips low as I drive south, hugging the horizon in a blaze of gold and orange. My phone rests silent on the passenger seat. No more urgent calls. The last vestiges of the chain scandal fade in my rearview mirror. I let out a long breath. shoulders relaxing. The saga of corruption, betrayal, and revenge finds its resolution with Everett and Rothwell undone. The board disbanded, Holly's confession and parted ways, and Carmen safe in a new life. Sean closes his own door on the painful past. The city system is purged. Toby's articles stand as a testament, and Sean's heartbreak morphs into quiet acceptance. He drives into the future free and unshackled. Uncertain but hopeful because for once, the storm is behind him. I'd never driven as far south as Texas by myself, so the road trip felt oddly freeing. No set schedule, just me, a packed duffel, and a mind needing respite. A week had passed since I locked up my Seattle house, leaving behind the city still buzzing over the chain's downfall. I had my phone, some snacks, and 1,000 miles of highway to clear my head. Drew texted me every so often, "Where are you at, buddy?" And I'd reply with dusty images of roadside diners or wide-open vistas. By the time I crossed the Texas state line, my shoulders were looser, my thoughts less haunted. I realized how intensely I'd been wound up for months. I pulled into Drew's ranch near sundown, greeted by a weathered archway that read Longhorn Ridge. He jogged out to meet me, big grin plastered on his face. "About time, city boy," he hollered, grabbing my hand in a firm shake-turned hug. I couldn't help but laugh. Drew's property sprawled across rolling terrain dotted with mesquite trees, a distant barn, and a big open sky. Turning orange, he led me into the ranch house, offering a cold beer. My bruised ribs from the fight with Rothwell still twinge, but the relief of seeing an old friend eased the discomfort. "Let me guess," Drew said, passing me the bottle. "You're looking for some manual labor and quiet nights to chase away city drama." I took a swig. "Pretty much. I need fresh air. Not corporate corruption or old memories." Drew laughed. "Then you came to the right place. We got fences to mend, horses to feed, and not a fancy gala in sight." The next morning I awoke to roosters crowing, an unfamiliar yet somehow comforting sound. We spent the day riding along fence lines, checking for damage, occasionally hammering in new posts under the scorching sun. My shoulders and arms burned in the midday heat, but my mind felt clear. It was honest work, nothing hidden, nothing twisted. Just me, Drew, and the Texas dust. At lunch, we'd crack jokes about our Marine days. He teased me for tackling an entire corporate empire as if it were a single insurgent. I'd roll my eyes, but deep down I was glad he recognized the scale of it. He asked how Harley factored in. I admitted she'd reached out one last time, but there was no reason to continue. That door was closed. Nights were spent on Drew's porch, the stars vivid and unpolluted by city lights. Over a beer, he'd press for details about how it all started. My discovery of Holly's affairs, the hidden phone logs, the confrontation with Everett. I told the tale in measured words, only now realizing how surreal it all sounded. "You still pissed at her?" he asked one night as a coyote howled in the distance. I considered, not in the same way. "I'm done. She betrayed me, yes, but I also exposed the bigger rot. Maybe, in some twisted sense, it all needed to happen, so folks like Everett and Rothwell got taken down." Drew nodded. "Life's weird that way. Sometimes personal pain triggers something bigger. You got any regrets?" I blew out of breath. "I regret not seeing it sooner, not stepping in earlier, so maybe fewer staff would be used. But no, I don't regret bringing it all to light." He clinked his bottle against mine. "Semper Fi, buddy, you did good." About a week into my stay, I noticed that my phone rang less. My tension had subsided. Toby sent the occasional update. Rothwell indicted on multiple charges. Everett pleading out. Carmen texted from her new location out east, telling me she found stable PR work at a small nonprofit. She seemed happy. Everything in Seattle was winding down. I'd spend my mornings feeding horses, chatting with Drew's stable hand, a quiet older man named Gus who barely spoke but gave kind nods. Evenings meant simple dinners, maybe a short run along the gravel roads. The ache in my ribs gradually faded. My mind settled into the ranch's rhythm. One early dawn, I saddled up a horse and rode alone to the far boundary. The sun crested pink over the horizon, painting the sky. I halted, gazing at miles of nothing but tall grass and the faint silhouette of a windmill. I felt a deep calm. The chain's meltdown felt like a distant chapter now. Holly's face drifted through my mind, but without the old anger. She survived. would probably reinvent herself somewhere else. I'd survive too, forging a future free of that toxic environment. In that moment, I realized I was genuinely at peace. Drew suggested I stay on indefinitely, maybe turned my security background into a local consultant gig. The idea tempted me. Texas had a raw honesty Seattle lacked, but my house was still in Seattle. My business contacts there. Eventually, I'd have to decide if I truly wanted to uproot. One evening, after we'd mended a final stretch of fence, we parked ourselves on the tailgate of Drew's pickup, sipping water under a fiery sunset. "I can see you're thriving here," he said quietly, scanning my relaxed posture. "But you're also scanning the horizon like you might leave any minute." I cracked a smile. "You know me too well. I do like it here, but I have to go back, tie up loose ends, figure out my next step properly." He nodded, understanding. "Well, if you ever want to come back for good, you know there's room." I slapped his shoulder, grateful. "Thanks, man. I'll keep that in mind." Eventually, after nearly a month on the ranch, I decided it was time. I told Drew I'd head back north, see if maybe I'd sell the house or pivot my security firm to remote consulting. He offered to buy me a celebratory steak dinner in the nearest town, and we toasted to new beginnings. The next morning, I loaded my duffel, shook Drew's hand, and promised to stay in touch. "Don't be a stranger, city boy," he teased, pulling me into a quick embrace. I climbed into my car, started the engine, and pulled out onto the dusty road, the ranch disappearing behind me, a pang of sadness, but also anticipation. I was stronger now, physically and emotionally, than when I first arrived. The miles ahead felt less like a burden and more like an open horizon. As I hit the highway, the radio played softly. My phone chimed a text from Toby. "I heard you might be heading home. Give me a shout when you're back. Got a new project you might find interesting." A smirk tugged my lips. Whatever life had next, I was ready. The return trip to Seattle took a leisurely 5 days. I stopped at roadside attractions, small motels, even detoured to a national park for some hiking. The final day, I found myself cresting a hill to see the city skyline once more, grayish towers under a cloudy sky. My house smelled faintly stale from disuse, but it was comforting. The furniture was exactly where I'd left it. I aired out the place, opened windows, vacuumed dust. By evening, it felt like home again, albeit simpler, without Holly's presence. Crouching by the living room, I checked the old hidden camera I'd set up during the scandal. All power drained. No recorded footage. A relic of a more paranoid time. I tossed it in a bin. Won't be needing that anymore. Within a day of my return, Toby called. "Welcome back," he cheered. "Feel like a brand new man?" "Yeah," I said, genuinely. "So what's this new project?" He explained there was some mid-sized tech firm suspecting internal fraud, and Toby wondered if I'd do discreet security checks. "Could be a paying gig if you want to keep playing whistleblower hero," he joked. I laughed. "I'm not looking to be a serial vigilante, but hey, if they pay, I'll consider it." We agreed to meet for coffee the next day. After hanging up, I stared out the window at a typical Seattle drizzle. Life goes on, I mused, but at least now it felt purposeful rather than weighed down by betrayal. That night, I unpacked fully, going through the last corners of the house that still held joint memories with Holly. I found a small box of her old knickknacks, hair ties, random receipts from dinners we'd once shared. I tossed them, no hesitation. I also discovered an envelope with final divorce papers and the official settlement stating the property was solely mine. Reading the legalese, I felt a pang of finality, but no sadness. "It's done." Slipping them into a file cabinet, I closed it firmly. Carmen texted from her new city an excited note about landing a permanent PR role at a startup. She thanked me again for everything. I told her I'd let her know if I was ever in town. Each message had an upbeat tone, like she'd found peace that warmed my heart. She'd been through a lot. I also saw an online news item. Everett pleaded guilty to multiple charges, facing years in prison. Roswell's trial was upcoming, and prosecutors were confident Holly's name appeared briefly as a cooperating witness, but not in any sensational way. She'd apparently given statements that corroborated the chain's wrongdoing. I closed the browser, lips pursed. Sometimes even the guilty do something right in the end. Meeting Toby the next morning felt like a reunion of old conspirators. We chose a quiet cafe near the harbor. He was already at a corner table, laptop out, a grin on his face. We swapped updates. He was riding high on the success of the big expose. I might be up for a journalism award, he admitted, blushing. Never expected that. Congrats, I said honestly. You earned it. He gave me the rundown of the new gig, a mid-level tech company, suspecting embezzlement, wanting someone with security and investigative chops to sniff out internal leaks. Toby put in a good word for me, so they'd likely reach out. I sipped coffee, weighing it. Sounds interesting. Might keep me busy. Toby shrugged. You got the knack and the rap. It's not the same drama as the chain fiasco, but you'd get to do what you're good at, uncovering hidden dirt. I smiled wryly. I guess that is my new specialty. We parted with a handshake, me feeling a subtle excitement for the future. No overshadowing gloom, no personal vendetta, just an honest job that might keep me sharp. Over the next few days, I settled into a quiet routine. The house no longer felt haunted. I'd run errands, cook simple meals, sometimes catch a movie by myself. There were moments I recalled the old times, Holly's laughter, the swirl of ambition. But it no longer hurt. It was a closed book. On a whim, I decided to host a small barbecue for some local friends, including a few from my old security gigs. We grilled in the backyard one Saturday afternoon, sipping beers, trading stories. I realized it was the first gathering I'd had in ages that didn't revolve around suspicion or drama. My friend Tyler made a joke. Heard you took on big corporate and won. Got to say I'm never crossing you. Everyone laughed and I grinned. In that moment, I felt genuinely happy. Shortly after, I got a phone call from the tech firm Toby mentioned. I arranged a meeting, pitched my security consultant approach, and they hired me on a short-term contract. It felt good. Legitimate work, no messy emotional baggage. I'd investigate quietly, help them shore up weaknesses. Meanwhile, the final news from the chain trickled in. Official announcements of new ethical guidelines, restitution funds for employees who'd been coerced. A glimmer of progress. Toby wrote a final, "Where are they now?" piece, commending the staff who bravely spoke up. Carmen was mentioned as an anonymous PR whistleblower. Holly's name was absent. No point in rehashing her story. I read that article on my couch. Mind at ease. They didn't need more details. The city moved on, and so did I. One late afternoon, as I tidied the living room, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered tentatively, half expecting more nonsense. A soft female voice came through. "Sean, it's Holly." My heart pinched. "Haven't changed your number again?" She gave a shaky laugh. "No, I just wanted to say I'm leaving Seattle for good. Got an interview out of state. Event coordination at a small venue. Thought you should know. You won't see me around." A strange relief. "All right. Good luck." She paused. I wanted to apologize once more, not for you to forgive me, but I couldn't leave without acknowledging everything. If I hadn't been so blinded, maybe none of that chain stuff would have grown so large. I sighed. It might have, or someone else would have done it. You were part of a bigger system, but you still made your choices. Her voice cracked. Yes, I did, and I regret them every day. But I'm trying to rebuild, at least in some honest way. Thank you for saving me from Rothwell that night. I owe you my life. Literally. I stayed silent, uncertain how to respond. Finally, I said quietly, "Just be better, Holly. That's all." She sniffled. "I will. Goodbye, Sean." The call ended. I stared at the phone, then exhaled. No bitterness now, just final closure. If she truly found a new path, good for her. We were finished. Truly finished. The next morning I strolled outside. Sunshine warmed my face and I realized it was the first time in months I felt entirely unburdened. My mind flickered to the months of unraveling lies, corporate takedowns culminating in Roswell's arrest and Holly's last phone call. Everything had come full circle. Toby's exposés were already a local legend. Carmen was safe on the East Coast. Everett sat in prison, Rothwell awaiting trial. The scandal changed the city's corporate landscape for the better. No more hush-hush, special hospitality. As for me, I had a new contract investigating smaller-scale fraud, a skill set sharpened by my personal war. I wouldn't call myself a vigilante, but I found a calling and ensuring unscrupulous actors don't get away with it. I breathed in the fresh morning air, letting a satisfied smile tug at my lips. The final chapter of that twisted saga was complete. Now to write a new one. Standing on my porch, I felt a crisp breeze drift by my house. Truly mine felt serene. No shadows lurking. The scandal that once consumed me was resolved. The city safer from that corporation's rot. I'd even found a measure of grace for Holly, enough to leave the past behind without hatred. Life goes on. I walked back inside, phone in hand, ready to tackle my next case, the next ordinary or extraordinary challenge. This time I thought I'm in control. No illusions, no betrayals left unchallenged. And with that, I shut the door softly, stepping forward into whatever the future held. Peace, purpose, and a heart that was finally free. I am Lady Truth, and I hope you enjoyed that cheat. More stories to come, and I will talk to you in the next one.